Tuesday, March 24th, 2026. Let's start the meeting with roll call. Rosemary Eva. Present. Dick Taylor.
Present.
Janice Gomes.
Present.
Adam Raposa.
Present.
Stu Hardy.
Present.
Alan Meyer.
Here.
I'd also like to introduce Mr. Todd Romano, our planning board attorney, Chris Spencer, our town planner, Ed Rotella, our land use clerk, and I think that's it. Okay? We'd like to, thank you. We'd like to start our workshop with a motion to combine our first three items, A, B, and C. So if... Thank you. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second the discussion first.
Okay,
I think it should be just with transparency, noted what they are.
okay. I can read them off?
She'll read them.
Okay.
Second.
She second. Any discussion? All those in favor of combining A, B, and C? Any no? You're okay? Okay. Unanimous, thank you. A, B, and C is discussion of what information the respective water board districts and wastewater district can present or not present to the planning board for its consideration and evaluation of applications. Discussion of how the planning board and planning office will coordinate with the water districts and the wastewater district to facilitate sharing information about applicants. And C, discussion of how the planning board, water districts, and wastewater districts can further develop their relationship to provide the town residents and ratepayers with the best service and protection of natural resources. And with that, we'd like to call up the North Tiverton Water Department, Stonebridge, and Parr? And Parr.
We need more seats? Where would you like us to sit? Yeah, right up front if we could. It's going to be very cozy tonight. Oh, okay.
Okay, four.
We're supposed to be talking about microphone. See you
Yeah, so I've asked the water board and PAR to come here, really partly to talk about the hydraulic modeling that's being done or has been done, and also to talk about the sort of the process that will be used when applicants come in, when they're looking for a certain number of hookups or development, basically with any development, what their need is as far as the water supply, pressure, all of those kinds of things. They are going to be putting together checklists that will then go to the water districts themselves, which then will go to PAR to look at through the lens of the hydraulic modeling. So then we will be getting some reports back. But I really want to just talk a little bit first, I think, about the hydraulic modeling, what that entails and how that's done. So just so the board is a little bit more up to date in terms of how that process works, if that's okay. Thank you.
Sure. Sure. Okay. Well, thank you for inviting us. My name is Tim Thies. I'm an engineer with PAR Corporation. With me is Lisa Goyer, another engineer with PAR Corporation. Let me start by telling you just a little bit about ourselves and what our background is. I'll introduce myself and Lisa can introduce herself. I've been working with PAR Corporation for about 24 years. PAR has been doing work in and for the town of Tiverton for about going back to at least 1994, and even before that, continuously since 1994. So we've been very involved in Tiverton, in a lot of engineering aspects of Tiverton for, over 30 years now. I've been working with and for the town now since 2002, when I started at PAR. So I've been very involved with Tiverton for about 24 years now. At PAR, I'm a senior vice president. I run the environmental division at PAR. The environmental division is where we do all of our water and wastewater work. And since I've been at PAR, since I started at PAR, I've been very involved in PAR's hydraulic modeling. This is computer modeling that we do for municipal and public water systems. And so that's been a big piece of what I have done for the last 24 years. I'll have Lisa introduce herself, a little bit about what she does.
Hi, Lisa Goyer with PAR. I'm a vice president there now. I've been there 10 years. Been in the water industry for almost 30 years. Again, specializing in hydraulic modeling. I think I've lost count of how many hydraulic models I've built just in New England. And I've been working with Stonebridge, I guess, almost a year now, I think. About a year.
So the modeling process. So the way hydraulic modeling goes and what we do in our capacity as engineers for Stonebridge and for North Tiverton. So when a new development comes to town, right, and they want to know if they can get water service, right? So the water department will send them to us. Usually there's an application that's completed and with some information about the development, the use type, the size, the projected water demand, what they require for fire protection. All of that information will be provided to us. With that information, we'll get a set of plans, right, that shows the development, it shows the roadway alignment, it shows where the buildings are going to go, and most importantly, it shows where the proposed water mains are going to go. What we will do is we will take that information and we will input it into the water department's computer model, right? So we have, back at our office, we have developed and we maintain computer models. These are computer models of the water system that we use to simulate different scenarios that the water department might encounter in the future, including proposed developments, right? So we have a computer model back at the office that it models all of the pipes, all of the pumps, the storage tank. It models everything to do with the water system. Like I said, we will take that new development, we will input it into the model, right? And we will model different scenarios with that new development online. And those scenarios are generally different demand scenarios, right? So we'll look at it during an average day, what happens on an average day demand-wise for this development. How does it affect the water system? We will also run it on what we call a max day, and think about this as like summertime demand when everybody's using water all at the same time. We will simulate that in the model as well. And what we are looking for when we do this is we're looking for what kind of flow and pressure that development can get, right? How much water can we get to that development and at what pressure? And what impacts will that development have on the water system as a whole, right? And we also look at fire protection, right? So we get a demand for the fire protection. We find out how much water they need for fire protection. We will input that into the model, and then the model will tell us if we can get that amount of water for fire protection or not, right? We write a letter that provides all of that data. We don't approve or deny the development. That's not our job. What we do is we simply say, this is what the pressure would be at the proposed development. This is what they can get for fire protection under these different demand scenarios. And we provide that to the water department, right? So in this case, we provide it to either North Tiverton or Stonebridge, depending on where that development is. This is a very standard process. We do this for a lot of communities in Rhode Island, for a lot of different public water systems in Rhode Island, this very same process. Any questions on how we do that?
Can you just talk a little bit about the development of the model itself as well as the standards that it's based on?
Sure. So every model that we build, all right, we build it in accordance with what's considered an industry-wide standard. So American Water Works Association, I don't know if anybody's heard of that organization, but American Water Works Association is this, it's an association of water suppliers that has developed standards for just about every aspect of water supply, water distribution, storage. They provide guidance on how to build a water tank. They provide guidance on how to disinfect a water main. They provide guidance on all sorts of things to do with water systems. One of the guidances that they provide is how to build a computer model. And it's a guidance about this thick, it's about 2 inches thick, and it provides guidance on how to build a water main. A water model. This is the guidance right here. Yep. It's called M32, and we build all of our models to this standard. We use this guidance document when we build our computer models, right? And this is very prescriptive. It tells you, how to import the data. It tells you what to look at when you're importing the data. It tells you the kind of data to get to put into the model. It provides guidance on how to use the data, what data to exclude, what data to include. I mean, there's a lot in here on how to build a computer model. We're very faithful to this model. To this manual. Once we build the model, right, and we run the model, we take the data from the model and we compare that to other industry standards. First and foremost, we look at the Department of Health, right? The Department of Health has minimum requirements for things like system pressure, right? So we make sure at a minimum that the new development is going to get that minimum system pressure that's required by Department of Health, right? There are other guidance documents, things like 10 state standards. AWW has other standards with regard to system performance. We look at those, right? And we compare the output to the model, the output of the model to those standards. So we look at things like pipe velocities, the velocity of the water in the system. We look at, like I mentioned, we look at pressure. We look at supply. Can we supply the development, with the pumps that are installed? So there's all sorts of guidance documents, industry standard guidance documents on system performance, and we use those guidance documents when we review the data that the model puts out.
Chris, do you want to ask
Can I just
anything else
clarify?
first?
Sorry.
Sure. I didn't know if Chris wanted them to go through anything else first before we started asking questions.
Yeah, I think if you can kind of talk a little bit about, because I know both of these water districts have some things in common, they have some interconnections. Talk about how that works when you're using two different models or the same type of models, but they're separate models, and how you're able to get information on what one water district is doing and how that affects the other.
Sure. So this is actually very common in computer models, right? So many systems in Rhode Island and around the country have more or one system connected to them, right? In many cases, one system may supply the other system with water, right? This is a very common arrangement. Even in Rhode Island, this is very common. And I used an example earlier today. We do the modeling for Providence Water Supply Board. Providence Water Supply Board is the biggest water system in the state, right? They sell water on a wholesale basis to 7 other communities, right? One of the other water systems that they sell water to is the Kent County Water Authority, right? Kent County in and of itself is one of the largest water suppliers in the state, right? Kent County has interconnections with North Kingstown, and they have interconnections with the Quonset Development Corporation, QDC, right? We do the modeling for all 4 of those, right? And we've built the models for all 4 of those systems. When we run those models, we don't have one big supermodel, right, that incorporates all 4 models. We run each system independently, right? That's very common, right? And that's true here as well. So North Tiverton and Stonebridge are connected, but when we run those models, we run them separately from each other. We understand, based on the work that we've done to build these models and the work that we've done in evaluating these systems, we understand very well how these 2 systems interact with each other in terms of how Stonebridge provides water to North Tiverton, how North Tiverton gets its water from Fall River, right? We understand these arrangements very well, and the models are built to reflect those arrangements and to reflect those, we call them boundary conditions, right? Where a model gets its water is called a boundary condition. And so we have those modeled very well in these systems. Like I said, it's a very standard arrangement for water systems.
Do you want to hear more information? Questions?
No, I think a lot of that's been covered, and again, I know both water districts may want to chime in about how they use this and how that information gets back to us. I think that's really, one of the primary things that the planning board wants to know is how is this information, first of all, where is it held? How is that developed, which I think it's been explained, and then how does that information get back to the planning board? So when you're reviewing a development, there is a very good assurance that that water demand will be met. So I think that's, either of you want to talk about that.
If they
a little
want to
bit.
include the information that goes to, whether it's Stonebridge or North Tiverton, and then what information do you then supply to Chris's office?
So that's part of the checklist that we had originally talked about when I spoke at a meeting in the past. We require the average daily water usage, maximum daily water usage, and peak demand. That all would come from the engineer of the developer. Part of that would be the proposed site plan with the location of the service. Any proposed contours or elevations in that project Those are crucial because elevations are what determine the pressure in the system. Required fire flows. We would need to know if it's a industrial or commercial, expected water use patterns. Is it spread out evenly or is it just several hours per day? Industrial and commercial developments differ. And in those scenarios, you would also evaluate fire flow scenarios. Non-residential uses, oh, no, sorry, residential for 4 or more. Those are prepared and stamped by a professional engineer and registered with the state. This is just everything on the application that we're trying to put together with planning so that we can stop from having multiple hydraulic models ran for the same project. Where we get all the information in one place when you guys are finally ready to move forward, and we only charge the developer one time for this. If there's main extensions, we would need to know the length and size of the proposed main, what types of service connections, will it be looped? This should all be a written request with a master site plan, stamped. I don't think I have enough for everybody,
Ed can send it out.
but I do have 6 if anybody wants to. Yeah.
I think Chris and Ed, so that we receive them after. Just to clarify, this will prevent a developer from going to the water departments directly. Everything will funnel through you and Ed, and the checklist will initiate the action on their part.
Because what happens is some of the developers that are familiar with the process try to jump to get ahead of where they are so that they don't get delayed. So they reach out to us. They reach out to us with what we think is the final answer. And then when we hear back from you folks, stuff changes, and then our report is useless. So we would take the report from PAR, look through all that, make sure all the pressures are good, all the fire flows are good, and then we send a smaller letter with that report to everyone. Why is it?
So this should eliminate the duplicate requests going into the water department. This should go to the water department once it goes through your office and you've checked various things so that they can do this once instead of
Yeah,
multiple
we'll do a
times.
check of the unit count that's been approved through a preliminary plan.
Okay.
All of those kinds of things, again, the type of uses there are on the plan, all of the things that are on that checklist, we'll just make sure that that is what's been approved. Because as Bob indicated, there have been developments that have come to him, push for the model, then it changed, then they do another model, and then the third one, and it's costly for the developer, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not getting anybody any closer to the information that's really needed.
That's the development.
So, it is, but we're trying
It is,
to
but
just,
it's mostly because we don't have a formal process too.
yeah. We're trying to develop that process and then, make sure that also at the end, what the planning board is getting is a comprehensive technical memo from PAR, having run that model, exactly what is available and how that's going to be supplied.
Got a question.
Okay, please.
We have had a problem in this town for many years with pressure. And when you develop this model, you take into consideration the environment surrounding areas.
So the last report, most reports, the last report we did for a big project, there is 150 pages in that report. One section of that is the pressure of every single hydrant in the district and how that pressure changes based on what that development does. The issue we have with pressure in this town, people don't understand how pressure works. It's based on elevation. So if you're at the top of a hill near the height of the tank, you have less pressure than somebody on Bay Street. Somebody at this table can verify that. And then you also have a lot of people in town with very old services, and they're not open on the inside. And since from the curb stop in is the homeowner's responsibility, they don't want to change that. So that reduces their flow, and they see that as a pressure problem.
What do you mean by open on the inside?
So it's restricted, like a lot of them are, where instead of it being 1 inch inside, it's a half or a quarter.
That's always
Yeah. It's volume. It's a volume problem. Like if you turn on one of your faucets and your other one shuts off, that's a volume problem more than a pressure problem. It just gets interpreted as pressure.
Adam, you had a question earlier?
Well, my original was, Tim, they already spoke on it, but I had something to bring up between the two models. So you have a checklist that a developer gives you, and he says, you know, we have this 4-story building, it's on a hill, it has these pipes in it, has 6 apartments, has a restaurant, has a dentist's office. So it's gonna be this many gallons, this type of pipe, and, you know, green check, okay, it's gonna, you take their word for it, basically. Where along that line does our engineer say, okay, this is, confirm that their math is correct? Is there an opportunity for that?
Yes.
Okay,
So in that report, if it doesn't work,
yeah,
I know from the Tiverton Heights development, the original, they wanted to do 6 and 8 inch water main inside that development, and it wouldn't get the fire flows.
okay.
So when PAR did that report, they said you have to have 12 inch inside. If you run 12 inch in here to here, you get all the required flows. And then it's up to the developer to either move forward with the project like that, or just move on and do something else. Right?
Correct.
Question for Chris on it, too.
Yeah.
Sure.
So do we have access to that particular model, or do we just have access to the applicant's math?
I
We get Pars and the water
I don't think that goes to a final report, right?
What's this, the math?
So if it doesn't work, before you do the final report, you tell them,
We usually will give an indication if something doesn't work, right? If we look at this model and we say, look, you just aren't getting the pressure, you're not getting the fire flow, whatever it is, we'll usually give an indication before we finalize the report so that the developer can make a modification.
Would this have an opportunity where the math might not be correct to actually get past us? And
What Adam-
get caught?
I think what Adam's asking is if the developer says dentist office requires X gallons of water, who double checks that?
Right, and to make sure that it gets double checked before we say, okay, this is good to go, it's on to
Sure.
the next, now we don't have a chance to get it back and make that correction.
Right.
Who double checks that?
So that's a good question. So when we get these calculations from the developer, usually they're from their engineer, right? It's not the developer himself writing these out. They usually have an engineer do it.
So,
Yep.
you know, that's where you get those.
So what we do is we take a look at what they provide,
Yeah.
right? And we'll check the math to make sure they didn't make a math mistake. But we will also go through and say, is this a reasonable estimate for what they're proposing? There are some guidance documents that will estimate, flow to a dentist and flow to a commercial facility, right? So we will take a look at those numbers and we'll say, these look reasonable based on these other estimates that we have. And we've done this in the past. We say, look, we think this number that you're providing is far too low for what you're proposing, right? And we'll go back to the engineer and we'll say, we think this number is too low.
Okay, and that conversation would take place before we get a chance to, that would happen before we need to make our approval. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? I want to make sure that all that is done before we
I think
get,
Tim and his team are
Yep.
double checking that, the veracity of the numbers that are given by the developer,
Yeah.
the developer's engineer, putting it into a report eventually.
Correct.
and then,
Yep.
okay.
And to be clear, when we look through these numbers, right, if we have a disagreement on the numbers of a very small percentage, they're saying it's 10 gallons and we're saying it's 9.5 or vice versa. We don't tend to go back and forth much on that, but if we think that they have wildly misestimated a number, we'll review it with their engineer.
I think the problem is they haven't seen a report from you ever.
Oh, I see, okay.
That is it, so
think
we
you
get,
have.
we get that,
I
well,
think so.
I usually send the hydraulic study with my letter.
Okay.
we get a study from the developer typically, but
We've actually seen it, that's very good.
Maybe we
Seen an
don't,
example with Longplex.
Yes. I know Longplex went out, and I believe Tiverton Heights went out. The issue we had with the one that I speak about without mentioning the name is the capacity of the building. So when they go over the fixtures, all the fixtures in the building have a set amount of use.
gallons per minute.
When you change the amount of people allowed in the building, they wouldn't necessarily review that information. That's why some of the things should involve the fire marshal with building capacity.
Max
before-
capacities.
Yes. before you guys make that decision that, okay, let's move forward with this hydraulic model.
Right.
Because that was the issue on that last project, was the capacity of the building kept changing.
That's the TRC stage usually, and that was an unusual.
We're not mentioning it.
I think I wanted to clarify. Go ahead,
I wanted to
Alan, first.
dovetail on that also. We have a number of large, I don't want to call them permanent buildings that are being proposed right now, but we have a number of them. Some of them have been sitting on the table for a year, 2 years, and some are relatively new. When you give a letter saying that you can provide water for this unit, say it's 256 units, and it languishes on for a year or two. The next one comes on, another 256 units. You take in consideration.
I answered this question yesterday.
Yesterday.
So-
Take in consideration the ones before and say, wait a minute, before we can give out one more permit, these are still going on and being pushed through the
Yeah.
system.
So what North Tiverton does is whatever we approve stays in the model, whether it's built or not.
All right.
So it's in there as it's built out 100%.
And when do they release them? I mean, how far after the project is resolved, or just they pull back and change?
We honestly haven't.
Really?
We just leave it. And then if the project changes hands, then you would, and they change the design, after so long, you would have to rerun it. And then the information would get updated. Like Tiverton Heights has been in our model for, I can't even tell you how many years.
So I just wanted to clarify one issue, because we have had a problem in the past. Some of the projects have been revised over time. At what point do you check with other department heads to clarify these numbers are accurate, or we need to change these numbers to get the approval from the water department?
Yeah, I think when there's any kind of material change to a project, we would be looking at, again, the capacity, the number of people in that, fixtures, anything like that that we think would be changing that. Make sure that either of the fire districts has information regarding that, and then they can make the call as to whether they have to rerun that model and update things.
Okay.
to be
So there are
consistent.
preliminary checks that you're going to go through before the water department even gets
Yeah.
the information?
But again, the final letter that you're going to be receiving, I think, is going to be at final plan approval.
Okay.
So at that point, you should know everything there is to know about that project as far as how that project's going to be built out.
And it's gone through a TRC and that whole process first?
Is there any, you make any adjustment, I don't, for PAR, when it comes to like the waste end of it? Are you involved in the wastewater end of it, or just the in? Are you involved in the out?
So separately from this, we do consult on the wastewater side for some developments, but not as part of our role with Stonebridge or North Tiverton.
And I think both water districts do provide information in terms of what the consumption is, and I think that has a direct correlation to what's needed on the wastewater. And I think there is somebody here from
Mr.
Tiverton Wastewater.
Nomrowski is
Yep.
here, I believe.
Yes, our usages go to wastewater
Okay.
for them. This is gonna be something that continuously changes until we work out all the kinks. Because
And you
we
have regular
might-
communication now
Yes.
with Chris and his
Because
office?
we may need a deadline for some of these projects. Like, if you don't do anything within 5 years, then that water comes off the table and you have to come back to the drawing board because we're holding up other things that could come out down the road. If people don't stop building and they just get their share of the pie and hold on to it,
Right.
we might have to stop them.
We have started regular coordination meetings with North Tiverton, Stonebridge, and wastewater. We've done, I think, one so far, and we're going to continue that. And again, that's part of that is to make sure there's consistency in terms of the way we approach these. Both of these, both Stonebridge and North Tiverton are kind of providing those same type of reports so the planning board it's not one completely different type of report. We're getting from one district to the other. And again, the same thing on the wastewater. We're going to be looking at capacity and their ability to serve.
Do we need Stonebridge? Do you have anything to add to
No,
this?
Bob's been taking the lead on this because it's something that we've all been talking about for a long time. I know it's difficult to believe in Tiverton for those who have been around for a while, but communication's not been the key on a hit list. But this has been worked out very well. If we can get communication between the two water departments and the planning board and the developer to know what's coming, then, you know, we can take that expected water amount, subtract it from our totals, and just hold on to it till the process works through, which is, again, the importance of having Per on board for both of us, because they've got both models, they know the foundation of both models, and the information that we need is going to come from them, which is going to get filtered down through everybody. But again, moving these projects along is probably just as important as the initial thought of, do we have enough water for them? Because you can't hold on to these figures forever. If you've got 400,000 gallons a year dedicated to a project, for example, you can't hold on to that for 5, 6, 7 years because other things happen that you need the water for. And with Stone Bridge is limited by the amount of water that we can pump. We're allowed to take so much water out of the pond. Our pumping station is allowed as capacity, safe capacity of pumping X amount of gallons. So we have to know exactly what's going out and when it's going to go out, and if it'll go out, for us to be able to adjust that and be able to provide the water.
Now, we have requirements under state law.
Projects
For
have a
projects.
vesting period that do expire. They can ask for extensions, but they still could expire. If you want, we can.
I think that would be good information for us to provide. Once that
Right.
a project that was vested does expire and no extension has been granted or asked for, then we can let the water districts know that that is no longer water capacity that they're going to need to hold.
They no longer have vesting rights. Can we include that on Ed's project list,
Thinking.
Sorry, Ed.
that
Maybe a new
information?
column or something. Yeah.
That's a
I
great
could put
list.
a new column in there, not a problem at all. So-
And when something does expire, significant projects, to notify all those that have an interest in it.
At what point does the water have to be accounted for in the application process? At what point is it theirs? And when do they? Yeah, like, when, so you have the
So-
developers, it's your water now, at what point does that happen?
So when do we give them the final approval? Is that what you're
I
asking?
guess so, right.
So I would
Would
guess
that
when,
be,
when you folks are satisfied with the project
you know,
and you feel it's gonna move forward, that's when we'll go through with the hydraulic study. And then that's when we give the letter that we can serve and will serve it.
so that would be the point, I guess, when it's invested.
We've been doing it as, when we give that letter.
But since you're, again, the project start and it's going through TRC, is going through preliminary plan approval, does it make sense at an early stage, at least, to hold that? And not necessarily, and then if the project's not going to go forward, then you can
In
pull
the
it back.
past, when the projects weren't so big, what we used to do is we would first provide you a letter that just said, we have a water main on this street, it's such and such a size. And that's what you would work from. So like, you knew they're not in an area that has no water. There's town water there, there's water available. Is it enough for the project? We don't know yet, because we haven't gotten to that point. So at least you know you're working with something. Then when it got further along, that's when we would run through the hydraulic modeling process.
I think there has to be a process and a point during our application process where it's held in reserve. But if the project doesn't get approval, then you have to let them know that they can release those numbers or that quantity.
The first step of the process is the TRC, right? So if it goes through the TRC and there's, for lack of a better term, a preliminary approval for it, okay, then at that point, all the ducks need to start to line up. And I think that's where this sheet would come in, to where the developer knows that he's got this checklist that he has to meet. He's sat down with TRC, he's got an idea that this project could be viable. Do we meet the criteria of the checklist? And then the water distribution would be, water supply would be on that checklist. That could be like a preliminary thing. You're not gonna do a model to satisfy it at that point, because the model really wouldn't come until the project actually gets some legs and becomes more viable. But at least the developer and the planning board and the water department, the respective water department are all tied in to this project, invested at it, so that, we know what's going on, everybody knows what's going on.
And certainly what I think we want to guard against is the planning board going through this process and then waiting until the end, and all of a sudden, well, we didn't hold that water because they didn't have final plan approval, so now we no longer have that capacity and we can't deliver. We don't want to be in that position either. So we want to make sure that, again, early on, that there is that reserve held. It may not be 100% accurate, but get that information, that you're working towards that final letter and final technical memo.
So like I said, with North Tiverton Fire District, once it's in the model, we feel we can provide that water to that development, we hold that in the model. That's how we do it right now.
I think if you can just work that into your application process, so we know at what point they're doing that, and then you communicate with them if they can release it at any point if the project is not approved, or they withdraw it for some reason.
We'll start to timeline that to see where
Yeah.
it makes sense and where we want to make sure that, again, we don't want to go through preliminary and then get to final and find out somewhere in between that capacity was not held and it was given somewhere else. Now the planning board and the developer has done all this work, and now there's no longer water when there was in the beginning of the project. So again, just, I think there's probably a rough number early on that could be held once it starts to get to whatever point makes sense for us to tell you that.
And each project is different. Some of these projects are big. So that project alone could require some kind of infrastructure upgrade. So they wouldn't necessarily get that water unless they make these upgrades. And that would be in the letter with the report too.
Right, and I think with any of the infrastructure upgrades, those are all things that have to be designed, approved, and both by the planning board and you guys to make sure that is going to happen. So obviously that comes before final plan approval, all of those, again, looking at the infrastructure, whether it's a water tank, whether it's a pump station, whether it's, additional lines or different capacity within the lines.
How would we get that information if there was something like that, infrastructure work that needed to be done?
So if there was going to be a project that required infrastructure for us, that would be in that letter. So when it went to PAR in the study, those upgrades would be in that study to show that it works. And then the letter that would come to you guys with the study, would come from me, would just reference those so that you didn't have to read through the 150 pages to see those upgrades necessary.
And I would think the approval, I don't know whether it would be conditioned upon the developer paying for those or, making sure that those improvements are being made.
It's possible.
On the site, but how about if it's an infrastructure? You've run the model for the development, and they've done everything they've been asked to do, added pumps, tanks, whatever. But it drags down because of infrastructure connecting.
It won't,
Okay.
because that's what the model is designed to do, is to show you what happens to that system if you put that drawer on it. So if they do everything that they're supposed to do, it's only gonna do what that model says.
Okay, and so there's no obligation on the water district to meet that if they've done what they were supposed to do. If you needed to enlarge the diameter section of the pipe or something, is there any onus on the water district to make those improvements?
I think,
Structure.
yeah, I think.
I understand.
Maybe has to make.
I would think that they would have to, right, if they want to, execute their project. If
Right.
they can't meet the demand, then they have to make those improvements. Otherwise, they can't do it.
Possible.
Okay.
Yeah, if we get a development, if a development comes in front of us and we run it through the model, and the model says, look, this development is going to cause pressure in the town system or one of the public systems to drop below a certain threshold, or it's going to have some other adverse impact on the town, we would identify that in the report, and we would say something to the effect of, it's doing that because this pipe is undersized, and you need to upsize this pipe. You, meaning the developer, needs to upsize this pipe, or the pumps are too small, or whatever it might be. We would identify that in the letter, and then it would be on the developer to decide whether or not they want to spend the money to upgrade that.
I mean, even if it was across town?
If it had an impact that was all the way across town, and we could connect the dots, which the model can, and say, you know, this fellow over here is getting really bad pressure because of this development over here, yeah, that would be on the developer. Yep.
Because in that report, there's like 8 pages that list every single hydrant. And it lists the pressure before the development and the pressure, the effect it has on the pressure after the development. So if you see too big of a drop in any of those, then you would do what? You change the size of the main in that area so that you don't get that drop, and then you can have your development, or you can't have your development.
So the development wouldn't be approved unless they met certain conditions, and it would need to be inspected to make sure they did what they needed to do.
All within reason.
So this is a big improvement over what we've had in the past, the hydraulic modeling of the 2 water utilities, and the new application, the new method for developers coming in the checklist. I think that all of that is a big improvement, and I think it's needed given the number of large projects that are now coming before the planning board and looking to be built here in Tiverton. I have a couple of specific questions about the hydraulic modeling for the Stonebridge Fire District. My first question is, does it include the water treatment plant?
It includes the finished water pumps that pump out of the plant. That's our boundary.
That's what I gathered from your memo of December 2nd to Carl Destramps. He distributed it to all members of the planning board. But if the water treatment plant itself is not included in the hydraulic model, that is not consistent with American Water Works Association Manual 32 standards. And it does pose a little bit of concern given the fact that Stonebridge itself has described to the State Water Resources Board issues with the water plant, and in fact, in their most recent report to the State Water Resources Department, and this is the 2022 Water Supply System Management Plan, they talked about the need for a long-term plan to improve the water treatment facility. That's a direct quote out of the submission to the State Water Resources Board. Also, I would like to note that the general manager of North Tiverton Fire District gave remarks to the town council back February 24 of 2025, at a time when there was discussion on the part of the town council for merging the 2 utilities into one, and North Tiverton Fire District opposed that. And Mr. Paul Leroux, did I pronounce that correctly? Probably
That's not
didn't.
me.
I know, but I did get it right. He actually said that if he found himself responsible for the water treatment plant in the Stonebridge system, that the first thing he'd do was shut it down. Now, that's a direct quote, and you can look it up on YouTube. Again, I'm saying it's February 24, 2025. So there are some issues there, and I think that you really should consider. Apparently, the long-term study that was discussed in the report to the State Water Resources Board never happened. I've tried to track that down, and no one at Stonebridge knows anything about it. Let's put it that way. So maybe I could ask the moderator if he knows anything about that. But I think that's a bit of a concern. I have some other issues.
Hold on. You want to respond?
I just want to respond about the treatment plant. When we do the hydraulic modeling, it's pretty, we're looking at the distribution system. So the treatment plant isn't typically included. That's a whole, if you want to model treatment plant hydraulics, that's kind of independent. 'Cause the treatment plant will pump from the pond, go through its treatment process, and the water ends up in a clear well. So that's where the distribution system starts, is where those pumps pump from that clear well out to distribution. So we wouldn't typically look at the treatment plant hydraulics. Okay.
Correct. Yep.
That's what I clarified that.
The plant, as we know it now, began operation in late 70s. So, yes, it's old. And we are in the process of a study of renovation versus replacement, which will really be determined if somebody wants to give us $30 or $40 million. That's really what it comes down to. It's all about the money. But the plant is maintained a certain amount of flow that we've been able to put out or have put out for this town. And we will continue. There's nothing wrong with the plant. The plant's operating fine. We're within our parameters. We operate at around 80%. We're limited by the amount of money, by the amount of water that we can take out of Stafford Pond. It's not an unlimited resource. And we've contracted with Fall River for a certain amount of value to take out of that pond, which we're well under it by the plant capacity, and we don't pump at plant capacity. So, yes, there's a long-range plan for upgrading it. Yeah, there is. We're in the process of developing that with Northeast Water Systems now. Most of it revolves around funding, but as we speak, that plant operates nice and smooth. There's nothing wrong with that plant.
So I have a couple of other questions. The US EPA recommends a soft water application for developing hydraulic modeling, but you're not using the one that they recommend, which is EPINET. You're using something called Open Flows Water Gems. Is it just a...
Water Gems actually runs on the EPA net engine. It's the same calculations.
Oh, okay.
EPA net's a free software, just very basic. So Water Gems runs off of the EPA net model, but it just has a lot more tools.
So it's a similar
yes.
process. Okay, that's fine.
Correct.
The
Yeah, that's actually a good analogy.
EPA is MS Paint.
The American Water Works Association discussions about hydraulic modeling of water distribution systems talks a lot about the importance of what they call calibration, which is just fine-tuning the system as more information comes in over time. But that requires somebody inputting that information. Are the two, you can speak for North Tiverton.
That's your hydrant flow test. When you out and do a flow test for a new development and you input those factors into that model, that shows you what that main is doing in real time.
And what about Stonebridge Fire District?
They just built
How will you proceed to calibrate and
We did-
continuously improve your?
They just updated their model. We just built it, we just finished it in January. They did system-wide flow tests. I don't know, maybe it was a dozen or so throughout the system. So then we take that field data and we compare it with the model output to make sure they're correlated. Validation. That's how we know we have a good model. And hydrant flow
because
test.
you have to see what that hydrant puts out, because if you just put everything in that computer model, like all the main is brand new, it's not gonna be accurate. So you flow the test and take pressure up and downstream to input it into that software.
So the Stonebridge model did go through our calibration process. And I'm assuming North Tiverton did.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Stu?
No.
Janice? Stu? Rosemary?
And just one thing to add, when Stonebridge's plant does go down, North Tiverton is there to pick it up. we feed them in an emergency. So it's not like Stonebridge is not gonna have water.
No, we also have an interconnect with Portsmouth as an emergency backup. So if something were to happen with North Tiverton, and North Tiverton could, for some reason, fail to supply the water, we can tie into Portsmouth. It's an emergency interconnect. Yes, yes. And that's a desired complement that the state almost requires from water districts, the interconnectability for an emergency situation, you know.
What's that process like? Is there like a cleaning process that takes place, or you just have to flood the system?
All
dump
we
the
do-
hydrants out for 2 or 3 hours before you can connect it to houses, or is it just?
No, it's all interconnected now.
Okay.
So what would happen is, well, the last time we went down, our filter bed went down, and I think it wasn't Kerry Lane, was it?
We did it through North Branch.
North Brayton, because it's interconnected anyway.
Our connections with Stonebridge are the easiest because they're always operating. They just operate and coming from Stonebridge to us.
Okay.
So if Stonebridge has an issue, we just swap it around.
And if we had to do Portsmouth, it would be a phone call to Portsmouth to let them know that we're in an emergency situation, we need flow, so that they can calculate on their end how much flow would be allowed.
It's easier for us to work together because we
Yeah.
always work with the guys.
Which was not always the case.
The guys always get along.
Thank you.
What more can the planning board to help you? I know Chris is developing a good relationship
Yes,
with you now.
we get, so the checklist we spoke about, we worked on this with PAR. So that information that's on this is what they need to run the model. If we can start using this, and I have no problem working with Chris and Ed, I don't have a problem sitting at the table here. We just need to talk more.
And these copies are for us?
Yeah.
You can email them to the rest of the board?
And as Bob said, this is still a little bit of a work in progress. We're going to continue to refine this and make sure everything's working for what the planning board needs and what the water districts need to be able to get to par for those modeling scenarios.
If anything changes along the way, we just fix it.
Thank you very much for your time, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're just going to take a minute while the water departments leave before we continue the meeting.
I apologize, I don't have any prepared remarks.
Just be quick.
But, yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions you have about our process, and I think it's a little simpler. I think it's maybe a little easier to understand. And of course, we're continuing to work out bugs, in our
Do you
own,
want to pull that
process.
closer to you?
In our own process, so, yeah, fire away. Yeah.
Chris, whatever you want.
No, I think we've been meeting. We're trying to, looking at not just what the existing areas are, but areas of expansion where the potential sewer expansions may be happening, trying to correlate that with development requests and things in those areas. So I think, again, knowing what your capacity is, what your timeline is for some of those extensions and some of those different, I think you have 3 or 4 different extension areas in general.
Correct.
So if you want to talk a little bit about what that is and what that looks like, I think that would be helpful.
Sure. Yeah, just to basically go over our process real quick again. I think I discussed it at a previous planning meeting, but we really have 2 factors that we're looking at. One is our capacity within our intermunicipal agreement with Fall River. That's 2 million gallons that we're allowed to send to them. Excuse me. We're well on. Yeah, we're well under that, and I doubt we'll get to that in my lifetime. Let's just be very clear about that. I think we're around 300,000 gallons per day, so it would be whatever quadrupling of our system to get close to that. And then the other factor is capacity within the system, so pinch points, right? So the system was designed for a certain layout, and that's what our facilities plans have, detailed in the past. Obviously, the build-out of the town has changed quite a bit since a lot of the system has been built. Our interceptor along Sousa Road was intended to serve the industrial park, And, that was really never built out. So a lot of that existing capacity is being taken up by, these proposed developments. And we decide on a case-by-case basis, basically, if the system itself will be able to take that waste. And the way that we look at it is we say there's sewer available, so there's a main in the street, we have capacity in our municipal agreement, and then we hash out all of the details about capacity in our permitting process. So if there isn't enough capacity in a certain part of the system, we would require the developer to build infrastructure to meet any additional capacity that we needed. So we're not currently at that point, but historically, the wastewater district has made those requirements. The interceptor was built as a requirement to build the villages. The Mill Street pump station was built as a condition of the Bourne Mills being built. So, we have a history of requiring developers to build infrastructure as part of their connection permit. So that's where it comes in with our agency. So, so that's our process in general. Again, as far as expansions go, I don't want to speak too soon, but we have been in contact with RI Ready. We've had a tentative approval of extension of the sewer main along Progress Way. We haven't had approval from their board yet, but it looks good. So we're hoping that we'll be able to get state grant funds to complete that project, which I think would be really good for the town. And we're in initial discussions, very, very initial. A lot of you may be familiar with our Phase 2 expansion. Our Phase 1 expansion was along Riverside Drive. A lot of those homes along there were connected. We had about 200 customers that were connected. That was substantial completion was 2024 on that project. And so once that was complete and we had a chance to do a bit of an autopsy on that project, we started to think about, okay, what will Phase 2 look like? So we're very, very initial planning, but it's basically that Robert Gray neighborhood that was the original plan for our Phase 2 expansion. We're currently working on our facilities plan. That will be a soup to nuts condition of our infrastructure, planned expansion, where the capacity is within the system, calculated very carefully so that we'll have a much, much better idea whether these developments, one of the big concerns with DEM especially, is whether a new development is consistent with your facilities plan. So is this development planned for? Now, of course, the state laws make that very difficult to plan for, because if it's zoned R60, you're planning for a certain density of development. But if a state law allows these density bonuses, all of a sudden our facilities plan can't accommodate that capacity. So again, we're lucky our system was sort of overbuilt at the time, but I think we're having a lot of trouble figuring out at what point we can say that a development is or is not consistent with our facilities plan, based on whether or not we can't say that a particular development is going to be built with a density bonus. We have no idea, and DM won't allow us to plan for that flow. So we sort of have to back off and say, okay, we have to look at the existing zoning regardless of what might be built there, and that's what the facilities plan will allow. So it's very difficult, and the way we've approached it to this point is we look at the planning department's approved developments. That is where we consider it to be consistent with the facilities plan, so our current facilities plan. Any future developments will require an amendment to our facilities plan so that we can see if the capacity is there. So again, that'll be on a case-by-case basis and going forward once our facilities plan is complete. So that's where we are now. And again, it's all a matter of policy, trying to decide. One thing that we have had some discussions, I'm glad you guys were talking about time limits, right? So we've had a lot of discussions about sunsetting approvals, right? At some point, you have to say, okay, this development that's been on the books for 10 years, we can't reserve capacity, for a development or for an industrial park that's been empty for 20 years, or for, who is that capacity for, right? And that's something that we've really struggled with, and the facilities plan is intended to sort of tell us who that capacity is for. So that's what we're struggling with now, but that draft should be done by the end of the summer. I hope we're a little bit behind on it, but that's really the document that will determine, where our capacity is, so. Any questions? Weston and Sampson's doing that for us, so yeah, that's why I was chatting with Nate the other day. Yeah, they're doing a really good job. Yeah, it's taken a long time because we're trying to be very, very thorough. One product that you guys may have noticed that sort of has come out of that effort is that we now have a layer on the town website that shows the sewers. So I think that's really helpful, both the sewered parcels and potentially sewered available areas. So if nothing else, it's going to save us a lot of phone calls from our real estate agents, that want to know whether it's connected or not. They can just look it up.
You are separate from the town of Tiverton.
Without a doubt. No, we just provide the layer for the town of Tiverton's GIS layer. Right, and that's a very important point. So I do, I pay my taxes. Why don't I have sewer, kind of thing, right? So it was intentional, right, at the time that the sewer district was created in 2014 to separate the sewer, the wastewater district, from the town. And that's really what allowed us to do our phase 1 expansion, because the larger population of the town of Tiverton wouldn't have been eligible for rural development dollars, but because we had a smaller census block that was being served, that smaller census area counted as a rural area. And again, at the time, the income distribution was favorable as well. It probably no longer is, but, so, yeah, so there you go. So that's, yeah, you can zoom right in and it'll show you which parcels are actually sewered and which ones are available. And again, we're planning to build this out in our own system so that we can add things like inspections and, details on our pump stations. We'll have a whole data system built around this that we will host. But again, this was just, I wanted to get something out there so that the community knows where our system is. Yeah, right. So we spent a lot of time getting this correct. So I'm really proud of this, that we were able to get this done, and it's a major sort of interim product that we've developed for this facilities plan. So I'm really proud of this. Yeah, and we have a meeting. As you were saying, we're meeting with the water districts. I have someone from the state of Rhode Island that I used to work with at RIDOT. They have a very, very robust data system that they keep track of all of the roads, all of the catch basins, all the inspections, every pipe in the ground, all over the state of Rhode Island. And so she's going to come in and talk about how RIDOT did it so that we can meet with the planner and the water departments. And, let's start to talk about what the best outcome could be for data so that we can all share this data, not only on the town's website, but we could have a really robust data system that we're all working from for the town. It would be very helpful for everybody, So I think that's the end goal, but, it's a ways off, so. Yeah.
You had mentioned Progress Road. How do you determine what the priority areas are of Tiverton? Do you look at the development that's coming through?
So the reason that we're focused on Progress Road is that's RI Ready money. So they are a state grant program that looks to develop industrial zoned parcels in the state of Rhode Island and bring infrastructure to it. So we applied. My first shot was I wanted to bring sewer down Fish Road to those industrial zoned parcels in that area. It was considered that the bang for the buck wasn't that great there because those parcels aren't large enough, but extending the sewer down Progress Road is worth it to the state to help develop these industrial zoned parcels. So that's the rationale behind that, because it's free money, right? So that's why we're focusing on Progress Road first. As far as the Robert Gray area, it's as simple as we were planning to do that next 5 years ago. So there's a lot of information that you need to develop to do one of these major expansion projects. Environmental reports, you have to go in front of the State Historical Commission. There's engineering, preliminary engineering, and a lot of that was done for that Robert Gray area. And it was sort of like, the way they thought of it was phase 1 was Riverside, phase 2 was starting to go up the hill, phase 3 expanding off of that. So again, phase 2 was really well developed, so we can start that project with a lot lower startup costs from an engineering standpoint because that work has already been done. We, as part of our facilities plan, they have it's a heat map, and I have a copy. I probably, again, I basically, we have a map of all different factors of what, and you can make copies and share that, of water quality issues that are related to on-site systems. And so the darker the areas, the more severe those water quality problems are. So it has 4 different factors. It's soil type, it's depth of groundwater, history of failing systems, and some other thing. And so that will determine where our priorities are. Our intention is to expand the sewer into the areas in town where the water quality problems are potentially the worst. And fortunately, that Robert Gray Phase 2 is one of our sort of darker purple areas. So that's part of the requirement of the rural development money, is you get a lower rate on your loan and you get a higher percentage of grant if you're fixing an existing water quality problem, and this heat map really demonstrates that there is one in that area. So it should make it a favorable application for rural development money, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone, any questions?
What would the approximate cost be to a homeowner?
So that's the million-dollar question, right? So we're in initial discussions for that. We have Weston and Sampson doing those calculations because our initial calculation, is 5 years old. So I'll just be honest, I'm shocked at prices. I'm sure you all are as well. Double it for a municipal project because we have to pay prevailing wage on things. We have the Buy American Steel Act. We have a lot of restrictions. So let's say, just back of the envelope, if you've got a $5 million project and you have 100 new customers, that's going to be $50,000 a piece, right? And nobody can afford that. So part of what we're doing is examining how we can get the grant dollars up. And again, the water quality issues is part of that, and additional state funding that we could get to sort of lower the cost per customer. But as most of you probably know, the cost per customer for our phase 1 was $18,000. And it's wonderful. I know it sounds like a lot of money. I don't mean to be flippant, but that paid for 40% of that project, which is unheard of. We had 60% of that project was paid by grants. And you just don't see that, and we'll never see that again. So I think part of our education program will be letting people know that, if they want sewer, it's going to be expensive, and of course that'll make me the least popular person in town. But unfortunately, everything costs an insane amount of money now. But we're working to do what we can to be diligent about finding grants and trying to keep the cost as low as possible to the potential new customers. So.
Will it be optional?
So, generally speaking, part of phase 1, they would not give us the money if it was optional. We had to have a positive a connection program that included mandatory connections, and we currently have a mandatory connection policy for anyone who's abutting the sewer and whose septic system isn't new. So if you have a new septic system, you would not be required to connect. But if you have an older system, and again, it's meant to improve these water quality systems, they would never give us the grant if we weren't requiring people to connect. So that's just the reality of the funding. So.
Do you have any other questions, Jen?
No, I think I'm good.
And I'm very easy to get in touch with, so if anybody wants to talk about any of this stuff offline, I like to talk. It's probably pretty clear. So, if you want to discuss any of this stuff, I'm happy to read you in on any of our existing programs, any of our progress. And we're looking for board members. Put that out there. We would love to get a new board member. Our board chair, Leroy Kendricks, who has been there for forever. Basically, he's still our board chair, but he's retiring very soon. So we're gonna need some real talented people to join our board soon. So, quick plug for that. I really hope somebody comes out of the woodwork.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
All set?
Do you guys want a copy of that? Yeah. That's preliminary. So please, yeah.
Did you want to ask
Thanks,
anything?
Can I ask you one thing? Maybe
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just a
No, please.
particular-
Yeah, no, please.
Just for my own
Yeah,
curiosity.
yeah.
So I'm looking at the GIS map
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
and I see a forced, a forced main that goes from Industrial Way and down Sousa Road,
Yes.
right? So that's a pump at the beginning in the Industrial Way?
There's a
And-
pump at Industrial Way,
And
and
then
it
what's
pumps it
on the
up.
other end?
It pumps it up to the top of Sousa Hill,
Yeah, right there,
Sousa
right where
Road.
the green meets the red, right?
Right, it's
Yeah.
approximately
Yeah, right there.
right around there.
Yeah.
All
around-
those, so all those parcels, we don't allow people to connect to the force main.
You don't allow people to connect?
We do not, not
So
all.
how will those developments tie into that?
So,
We're gonna be careful.
Well, right, I'm.
No,
this is strictly for my own curiosity, if you don't want to answer it now, we can.
nope,
move on, but-
the existing development
Yeah.
that is very well along.
Yeah.
They put in a manhole at the top of Sousa Road, so they will pump their waste up the hill from a pump station that they will build and operate,
Mm-hmm.
and it will flow from gravity down Sousa Road, the
Okay.
downhill portion. Other parts of it, it's an engineering problem, so we will discuss that. But just to put it as simply as possible, one connection that's carefully engineered, put in a manhole is one thing, for a large development that there's this considerable amount of revenue
Yeah.
there, right? So it's worth the risk. 10 punctures
Right.
along
There's a lot,
is,
yeah.
that are generally done by, private contractors without a lot of oversight, that's something that we just don't want to entertain. So that's why we have, historically, we have not allowed connections to the force main. Without a doubt, right? So, and again, we're trying to be as responsible as we can with capacity.
All these other developments, that they have the potential to run into some type of hiccup hooking up to our sewer system?
I think that's information that they should provide to you, yes.
So yeah, we're happy to share any engineering review. It'll be part of, our review of these developments. And, again, we will not allow a connection permit if we are not satisfied with how the work is being done. We have a very robust inspection system. We're on site regularly to make sure that these even on the private property, we're ensuring that these systems are being properly constructed and tested because, let's be honest, if there's a problem, I'm the one they're going to call in the middle of the night. They're not going to call a developer who's, more than likely long gone, right? So I'm just looking out for my own interests, personally, to make sure that these things are constructed carefully because we do have an oversight responsibility as part of our permit with state of Massachusetts and US EPA. So, we take that very seriously.
All set?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, for the next part of our meeting, basically for the remainder of the meeting, it's a planning board workshop. So we're going to start with, D, discussion regarding project files, generally not a specific project, to include how to utilize the Google Drive to access project files, how the planning office is going to require projects be presented, and e-permitting.
did have it up. This was the big thing, too. I know.
Okay, so. Can everyone hear me? All right, good. So I'm going to go through the Google Drive with everyone. So when we pass out packets, the way I break it up to make it easier, instead of just giving you a million different attachments, is I'll put it in a drive for you. And what you can do in a Google Drive is you can, if you have, does everyone have access to the Google Drive? When I send it, can you open it? Okay, we'll talk about that. But once you get the Google Drive open, if you have, your Google account set up, which you should if you access the Google Drive, you can do whatever you want with those files to order them in any way you want to access them in the future if you need to. So I'll just go through a couple examples of what you can do, or if you have questions about how to access certain things, we'll talk about it. Todd, is it all right if I open some files for other projects? We don't have like a...
Pending projects?
No, well, we have some older ones in there I could open up. I'm not going to show them, I'm just going to tell them what to do with it.
Pending projects?
I can open a project that's not.
Please.
All right, so we'll break it down into our, let's see, I think, August. So we have a few files in here, so we'll go to this one, which was a minor subdivision. So this was a pretty, easy file to manage. You have your site plan. Yep. You have your site plan, you have your memo from Ashley, and then you have your application materials. When you click and open one, you'll go down, you'll see this was provided by the applicant, so it's a big file, so you have to scroll down for it. If you have Adobe, you can break it up if you need to. If you have trouble, if you want to just get a section of it, I can help you with it. If you want to make an appointment in the office and come by, I can show you how to do that. Otherwise, you're just going to have to scroll, which isn't a big deal. But what you can do with these files, like I said, if you want to make your own file folder for the future, you can go over here to the side, go new folder, and then you can just create your own folder for your drive. And that will go to your home page. So if I create this, hit create, it will go in my home, in my drive. And it's somewhere in here. But basically I just created a new folder. It will go under that, it will go under this, and then I can add stuff to it if I need to.
Does it automatically do
Today.
alphabetical order?
There we go. It does. You can modify it any way you want. I have it in that order in particular because it's where I can find stuff. But see, once you have this open, you can add any files you want to this folder. So anything you want to take and drag, you can drag it. And you can modify this folder any way you want. So, for example, this created in the Dissolva file, so sorry, I have to go home and do it. So I messed up, but I'll show you. So if I go to my drive again, I can create a new folder, access it, again, just call it meeting folder, create, and then I can drag in and do whatever I want to that. You upload files, you right click, file upload, and then you can add any of your downloaded or saved files. So if I have, really quick, I'll download something to show you how I can do that. So I'll just, for example, go to my 2026. I'll go to 323, like this.
Was this agenda from today sent to the?
No, I
Google
just
Drive?
sent it,
wasn't, right?
I just sent it regular because there was no packet to go with it.
Okay.
So I download, now I have that download, I go back to my drive. And go to modified, today. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. I want to go home. I can go to
So anything
my
you send to the
drive.
drive will just wind up on this welcome to drive homepage?
Anything that you, it will, yeah, so if you go to your drive, everything that you save will be on there.
No, but
Here's a
it'll be
meeting
in the
folder.
homepage, right? Anything that you send us? Send to the drive will go to our homepage, and then we have to send it to our own individual.
Yes,
drives, right?
yes, correct,
Okay.
correct.
I think that's right. I don't know if I'm getting everything sent to my home drive
Okay.
in order to be able to send it to my drive.
And so now I've uploaded the agenda to this meeting folder. So now I've created my own folder. So if you want to set it up where you can, and I'm not telling you what to do, but you can do it any way you want. But if you want to have everything that you feel is relevant for that meeting, you can just set it up in your own file folder and have everything right there for you if you want.
On our computers.
Correct.
On a network, is what I'm used to.
You have it on the network, but you have to put it on your computer to move it, or you can actually you can move it in your drive as well.
Because it's eating up.
Can
a
get
lot
into
of
that,
memory
right.
On our drives.
Gotcha. So if you want to take something out of a packet that I send you, you can't. So you have to download it to move it.
You have to go to, well, like I asked you.
Yeah.
Article, you
Yeah.
have to find it.
Yeah, you can't, it is, but you can move stuff around in the drive if you want, if you have to download it though. Once it's on your drive, you can get rid of the download off your computer. So you don't have to store it on your computer, you can store it on your drive.
So on E, it says with some training we'd like. I would really like some training on Google Drive, if we can
Yeah,
maybe think about that.
Where are we going in the future?
well, we're not gonna be here.
Google Drive.
We're not gonna be Google Drive. We're gonna be getting off Google Drive.
So is it only a month or two?
I don't
Or are
know.
you talking 6
I
months?
don't know the answer right now. So we're gonna be doing the same thing that town council does for their meetings, eventually.
Which is,
What is what?
You have hyperlinks.
It's like,
It'll-
have you seen the
it'll be
agenda that the
clerk-based.
town council has, that you can click on different things and you can get the backup?
If you
Right.
go to clerk base, and not all of it's operable, I asked a question, a request last night at the council meeting because you couldn't open it. I was using the hyperlinks.
Well, the idea is that if there's any issues, we'll try to get those figured out beforehand. Hopefully, it's not the same. But if you have trouble accessing something, just let me know, and I'll figure out, what to
Do we have a
do.
training on how to use that then?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We're gonna have to. There's no question that we're gonna have to do that. I'm gonna have to learn how to do that as well.
So if we can just back up a little bit,
Yep.
if we're going to be on this system and utilizing this for at least the next
A couple
3
months.
months,
Yeah,
then let's set up a training.
yeah,
And then
absolutely.
anyone who wants to participate can attend that.
I would like
And then once we go to
Yep.
clerk base, we'll do the same thing.
I think ideally we'll wait until we're back in the council chambers.
Yeah,
Okay.
We don't have a spot right now to do it in the training, so as soon as the renovations are done in the main,
No, this is not good.
well, it's a little more difficult. And it's not. gonna be
Why'd the
long.
mouse
Well, we should have that.
show
It
up.
doesn't get to be long like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Right.
does anybody have problems with the file names changing, coming in? You go to yours will look fine when I open the zip file.
Yeah, the file names are named by the applicant.
Come in, They're like
Yeah,
image files.
the file names are named by the applicant.
Everything is,
Right.
yeah.
Oh,
I
are we
can
talking about
change
some of
those
this?
without
Oh,
affecting-
okay.
I didn't want to modify the names because I wasn't sure whether it would modify it across the board for everybody.
If you download it to your computer, no.
Yeah.
If you change it
No, I
down, but if
always
you
download.
can't I ask that you don't change anything to the drive,
Yeah.
because if you do, don't.
Many people do it, though.
Yeah.
Tell them not to
I
do
thought you were just telling us to do that. No.
No. Hold on, time out. If you download the item, you can move it wherever you want.
Oh,
Once it's downloaded. Once it's downloaded, you can, because you open up a new folder if you want, and you can upload it to your file if you need to. The Google Drive that I send you, you leave. The only thing I ask you to do is download the individual files if you want to.
Okay.
It won't take up your computer space. If you download, then open up your own file in Google Drive and upload, and then you can erase it from your computer if you need to. I'm just telling.
You're gonna have to write these directions out.
Okay. Okay.
That's just to download it. Then it's on your computer. You can do whatever you want with it.
Then upload it to Google Drive.
And then you can erase it if you need to.
I don't even do that. I just put them on, I have like 10 different Google Drives, and they all get mixed together. You log in, 10 different organizations. So it's better to just download the actual files, put them in a folder on your desktop for that month, and just throw them in the planning board folder afterwards.
Exactly.
You can get to everything instantly.
Yeah, if some people don't want them on their computer, so I'm giving them an option, but yeah, you're right, Alan, if you want to do it that way,
Well, how else we
do
gonna
it that
pass
way.
the time without looking at plans all day?
Right. Exactly, so, all right, so, I don't know why the mouse isn't working here, hold on. No, it's
What's
on
the
the.
story with the e-permitting? Don't do that.
All right, so e-permitting, has anyone used e-permitting before? Yeah, Adam has, right? Okay. So, let me try to. Not working. Oh, there we go.
All applications now have to be filed through the e-permitting system on the website.
Yes, so, let me try it. I might not be able to open this on this computer.
New point? And paper files.
We've updated it sooner.
Nope.
Soon it'll be soon as.
Right, yeah. So I think carpet's probably going in starting tomorrow. They're still building the desk. Then they have to do the two.
This
three
is not the,
around those
I don't think
doors.
this is the right one.
The council would be able to look at. Those would be hanging from the ceiling, because those two columns now are gone. So it's just the technology, and I think this was, probably no leak.
They said last night, because up there, that they were building desks on site.
Well, the building offsite, but they have to frame a little bit of it, and, so that's what they've done today. And the top and everything is done offsite. They're going to carpet it tomorrow. What? Oh.
There'll be screen space in the audience as well.
Yeah, so there'll be the one where it was before.
Not working.
Behind there.
Behind the heads and
Yeah, that's,
All right.
yeah.
So I
think
can't-
I'm going to eliminate that. I think
I
just
can't
talk
log in.
about it.
Okay, so I can't log in right now. I don't know what's going on. I think, this might not be our section, this might be the customer section, but, so with the e-permitting, what's gonna end up happening is you can create a login and then you can view all the applications that are in to the planning office currently. But you have to be able to search them by the address or the name of the applicant. So if you say, Ed, I want to look at, for example, one of, let's call it 34 Highland Road, which is Town Hall. I would say, okay, that's, 343, sorry. So you can ask me and I'll tell you, and like, yes, they've submitted and you can look at it. I don't believe they can look at all the attachments though, right, Todd?
If you give them access,
I can give them access?
Yes.
Should I do that?
I think so. Priscilla
Okay.
gives me access.
Okay, so I can give planning board members access to that. Do I give everybody access to that? Or just
Not the public,
Just planning board?
because the members need to have those attachments,
Gotcha.
right? That's the plans that have been submitted.
Correct. So if that's the case, then you can access it through OpenGov. The idea, though, is that you're gonna be able to get stuff sent to you, so it's not really gonna matter. So basically,
So the identifier is the address.
or the name of the applicant. In some cases, though, it's better to just do the address, because the applicant could be an attorney, it could be a land surveyor, professional engineer.
But if it's 0 Main Road or something like that, it'd be better to go with the applicant's name.
I think it brings up a series.
It will bring up a series of things, yeah. So it would be better to go to it'll be better to go with the name. If you can get it from me, I'll tell you. We also can do permit number. So we have permit identifiers.
Or application number.
Application numbers. So now we have application numbers. So you're going to start to see the application numbers on the agendas. So it gets generated by, OpenGov. So everything's going to say plan dash 26-1 or 2 or 3, whatever order it comes in. Every year it starts over.
What we have on the point, the locations or records?
It's going to be the same thing, Adam.
Same
Same setup.
Okay.
What this is also going to be able to help us do from a planning department standpoint is, now we were just talking about coordination with the water departments. We're going to be able to actually just put them in automatically, so they won't even get it until we pass it off to them in e-permitting. So that's going to be very helpful. So developers are being told right now, nope, sorry, not touching it, go through planning. But if they're doing things on the portal, they're going to know not to go to water until we tell them to go to water. And the idea is to make sure. Exactly. And so that becomes.
Water won't see it until that task is assigned.
Right. So they're not going to be going to water until we tell them to. And they're not going to be going to fire until we tell them to. And they're not going to be going to DPW until we tell them to. So that's the benefit of the permitting system for our standpoint, from a staff standpoint.
That's what we were talking about before with timing, that they won't receive it before it's their time, and they will receive it after other departments have done their part in it. So it will streamline, hopefully, the whole project.
Correct. And so going back to capacity, we would have fire look at stuff before water, so that the capacity is determined and agreed upon, and then they'll go to water. So.
Ed, do you have a running list of the training that we had talked about? I know it was Google Drive, e-permitting, maybe just to help us get familiar with
Yep.
that. And once clerk base is, after you've gone through it, after Chris has gone through it, then hold the training for us.
Correct. And we also have GIS on there too.
Yeah, I've got that under E.
For the GIS, is there any plans in the future to put the water lines, an overlay, for the water in town?
Don't know about that.
Okay.
It'd be nice.
It would be nice, yeah. That's something.
We have an old school map, but we'd have to.
How would we go about, having that conversation, or getting that done?
So, it's the conversations that we're having
Yeah.
already. But again, I know, I don't know about Stonebridge and North Tiverton, but I know in some municipalities, water districts, or the municipalities themselves, is somewhat adverse to doing that just because of security reasons. Tagging the water line.
Doing what to water line?
Some municipalities don't like that information there
Okay,
because of security.
all right.
Or like somebody.
And while we're talking about that, I was just going to bring up the next item, since we're talking about GIS, discussion of what training the board would like to receive, for example, use of the GIS maps and reading site plans. I think everyone knows how to read the basic GIS. If not, we can set up the training with Ed, but it's the layering and the measurement tools on there that I thought would be helpful. that we get a refresher course on there. It can do a lot more than, how it was originally set up.
You never had a training on GIS.
I think it would be a great
We
opportunity
did,
for
yeah.
Ed to do that. I know my computer, sometimes it just freezes when I'm trying to do too much. So the basic GIS is good, you can find out, the information that you want. But when you start to layer in zoning, and then you're trying to measure a certain property or measure how far it is from something, that takes a little bit more skill, and effort. And I'm sure you can show us all shortcuts. I know I take the long way around to do a lot of it.
No, GIS is very helpful, and I would even say that would be even more helpful than your site plan when you're first looking at a project. Go to GIS, it gives you it's a little bit easier to understand, a little bit clearer. You can see everything around it. You have some layers of, you can even go back in time, right? You can look at past maps, see what the site used to look like, see what the site currently looks like. It's very helpful.
You can look at it by season, so you can
Right.
see a winter look, without the
Yeah.
leaves. You can see it in summer. What I find very helpful is the wetlands.
Yeah.
You turn that
Absolutely,
on
yep.
under the GIS. And then you can put the zoning over that, so you can see how the zoning would affect the wetlands. We've done a little bit of that in the zoning revision, but, I think that would be helpful.
These are
Yep.
approximate measurements and distances, lot lines. that are
These
set
are
out.
not survey drawings.
Right.
Especially when you do the abutters, you have that approximate, you say.
That's usually good enough. I mean,
The abutters are okay.
You
Yeah.
know what you do when you do an
Right.
abutters list, is you look at where it looks like it's real marginal, and then you may include some properties that you think might be just right there.
It takes a
There's an
little while to
example.
get used to it when you're pulling it from your mouse, too, to get the exact measurements.
Right, so,
Get to this page sometimes, it just freezes.
You can always reload the page. Sometimes I find that reloading helps. And if you leave it open for a little while, it stops working after a while, so reload it.
Did you get fiber optics yet, Rosemary?
Cox cable.
Did you get fiber optics? It's a little better. They're doing it for free now too, yeah. Pretty good deal on it.
You don't want them.
Even when we're looking at maps at the library, when we do the
Yeah.
rezoning committee, sometimes it'll freeze and you have to start back
Yeah.
from square one. So,
Adam, that's why I go to so many meetings, because it just.
do you want to show the measurement or the
Yeah.
different?
All right.
So, you put the different layers on and you can, you can see what comes up, what pops up. The wetlands layers on. This is the abutter, if you want to look at the abutters. Over on the right side, we have the measurement tool. You can measure area, you can measure length. It's pretty accurate. Again, it's approximate, right, Todd? But it does work. So just an example, if you want to measure area, the measurement tool is a little tricky, so you gotta be careful with it. But for example, here, I'm looking at acres. You click a point. You don't hold down the button on the mouse. You just let it go. Click the other point, drag, click, and bring it over. And then it ends. You can't really see it there, but you have to, if you zoom in, it will show up. So there you see I measured 1.69 acres. And if you want to get rid of that tool, you just hit the trash can. Clear graphics. And then you can start again. Same thing with the length. Don't hold down the button on the mouse. Let it go. And that'll give you your length. Double click, erase. So it's a good tool to have. You can check measurements. You can see if it's accurate. Look at a site plan. See if, what's coming up on GIS is in the ballpark. And it's helpful. Just really quick, I'll just show you the base maps. Go to local, and you have what Cheryl was referring to, the fall. So you can see the base map in the fall. It's a satellite image.
Your layers.
Oh, that's the abutter list. Hold on. After a fresh Todd, can't get rid of the butters.
This is the challenge. Sometimes when you're going through it, you're not sure how far to back up or you get out of it completely. So any helpful hints in navigating it is good.
But back to the base map, again, on the right-hand side, base map, go to local, and that will bring you to, so 2025 fall aerial, there it is. You see the difference between the winter, we didn't have much snow, in 2024, 2025 season, so it's gonna look the same, almost. But then when you start to see spring rather, it gets a little bit trickier. You see a lot more green trees, so sometimes it's actually better to look at the winter aerials, a little bit clearer to see. But you can also, like I said, go back, look at the history of a property. So, you can go back 2003, 2004, and see what the history of the site looked like. They have some scanned images, some scanned aerials from all the way back to 1939. This Fort Barton right here.
Yes.
So there it is. That's what it looked like 20 years ago. So that's just a little bit of what you can do with GIS. Like I said, it's really helpful. So if you get confused by a site plan or the way something's laid out on a site plan, go to GIS. Kind of clears things up for you.
Can you just really quickly show them if they want to look up a certain law or they want to look it up by name?
Yeah. So when you go to the search bar, you can look things up by lot or by name, or by address. So
It's all the same. You're just
exactly.
typing. And it's a smart search, so it'll start filling in right away, and then you can see the list down below. And you just choose one.
Is there anybody who wants to volunteer?
Pull up.
Rosemary.
Have your address go up there.
Yep,
Oh.
why not put Tiverton Four Corners? Not the fun.
Oh, not there.
Put it 49
You're off the grid.
There we go.
Rosemary's off the grid.
What is it, Rosemary? What's the address? 4019.
She wonders why her internet doesn't work. While she's off the grid, right?
I'm still doing that. Yeah. So see how it can be a little wonky. There we go.
There it is. That's the back of the house.
And you can also go by parcel ID
Sneak. Why
if you want to.
I don't know. Ask
Is
the
this
assessor.
sneaky?
Or look at, now I'm gonna go to 2025, and it'll update the
See the
image.
addition she put
Yes. And so you can also look it up 813-102 if you want to.
Any big deer there? Rosemary? A tree stand up there by any chance? Any bow hunters on that?
And there it is. So parcel ID and name and address are all possible on here.
Can you scroll over? Bring up Norfolk Pond. This is all watershed.
Okay. Oh, and I can put that layer, want me to put the layer on?
See it?
Yep.
That's Norfolk Pond. And that's the watershed. And if you go up, scroll up, you'll see the village commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the top left.
So, yeah.
So when you get your package, if you have any question and you want to look up anything further by the lot number, by the person's name or whatever, you can just put that in there and look up as much information as you want.
Yes, so, we'll go back here. And, oh, I don't know why it's doing that. So we can also pull up the property card, the tax property card. I'm sure a lot of you have already seen these, but, this gives you a little bit of the history. It will tell you the history of the sales. It will tell you about the structures that are on the property, all the measurements, and then also gives you the legal references as well, which is also helpful when you look up land evidence, which we could also spend time
My
looking up.
underground garage
Land evidence.
on the road
Where?
on my house,
Oh, yeah, no, I,
underground,
right.
just a cap.
Is it a bunker? So, this is just a little bit of, research lessons for you. If you need anything, if you need help with anything, if you have questions, let me know.
The land evidence records.
No, they,
From the map.
oh, from the map. So I have to go back. So you can't get back to it from here. You have to exit out of here, or you can leave it up. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. You can't, don't hit back. Just exit out if you want to get rid of it. That's all. Right here, Tiverton Land Record Search. But you have to type it in. So you have to type it in by name. Yeah, so it doesn't connect over.
Same thing with clerk base, that's a separate database.
It
And
is.
hyperlinks don't go up until after it's been updated.
Well, we'll talk about that once we get access to that. Hopefully ours, we need you to have access to that, so we'll talk about it if that's an issue. But we haven't been brought up on that, so. But, with land evidence, this recorded land is gonna be your deeds and all your documents. Recorded land plans are gonna be your site plans and, historical maps. Not in land plans. Recorded land, yeah. Which gets a little confusing. And you do that, you can do that by name. If you have the record number, if you have the book and page. You know, so sometimes street, yeah, sometimes street helps as well. It's very helpful and gives us a lot of good background on a lot of the parcels.
Spend a lot of time.
Yes, but it's interesting. It's helpful.
So I think we'll add this to the list, the
I
training
would
list.
say we
once
could definitely
get-
do it. We're just gonna have to plan out what examples you want,
Right.
what we're gonna look up, so we're not. Yeah.
Right.
So we'll
Well, I
come up
think
with
we'll
some-
have a,
Volunteer.
Okay. All right. Rosemary, we'll look up your stuff.
some of the
All
town
right.
property. We could do
Well, actually,
something like
town
that.
property's a good one.
Yeah.
The one that I so-called signed, I did sign.
Aruda? Oops, sorry.
Okay.
All right.
Are you all set?
Yeah,
With
that's it.
that
Unless
item.
anyone has any questions.
What's the staff access? I'm sorry, I was lost in the maps.
Yep.
So there's a spot that says staff access. Is that what we would access?
No,
Oh, okay.
that's what,
Just like build it?
that's, what, staff would, so,
Like
the
work on-
planner and the building official, yeah.
The town clerk has access to that. You can't print anything from that.
Oh, okay,
They have to print.
okay.
Just going to move on to the next one. Discussion what the board members can expect from the planning office. And with that, I asked Chris to pull up the planning board policies and procedures. I had started putting together some information of what I thought the planning board needs in the package, what the timing should be for us to review the package. And basically, all the information was already included, already put together in this planning board policies and procedures. So I was just hoping that we could go through that. I know due to timing, we're not going to go through the whole thing. I think it's off on the right at the bottom.
It was here before.
Yeah. I sent Chris the information on how to. There it is, yeah. The one that's policies and procedures. Not going to go through the whole thing. Page 1, under meeting agenda. Chris, I wanted to confirm, are you the AO now? All the stuff that comes under AO, is that you, Todd? Was Ashley?
No, I don't know, I'm not 100% sure.
It's Ashley and or Chris. There's
So
some
we have
transition.
dual roles right now. Some of
It's mentioned
Yeah.
repeatedly
No, I know.
under here. If anyone has a chance, this is under planning board on the town website. We don't have the copies to hand out, we just have this, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So under 2A, number 1, just go down some more, page 1 of 12. Yep, 2A. Under number 1, the meeting agenda shall be established by the planning board chairperson in conjunction with the planning board's administrative officer and solicitor. That's why I wanted to determine if that's you. So in the future, I need to get, more involved in that process and understand it. So going forward, I'd like to get more involved. The approved agenda on the number 2, and all backup materials shall be distributed electronically and in hard copy to the assigned mailboxes of all planning board members. And it says 7 days prior to the scheduled meeting. I know when I first started on the board, I wasn't sure of the timing, and I think it was Janice that actually brought it up in a meeting, which was helpful. I'd like to move in that direction where it has not only this deadline, but deadlines for developers and different things for our agenda. If it needs to be submitted in a certain amount of time so that it makes the agenda, so it makes our package. We want to be able to review all the information thoroughly, and sometimes with the information coming in on Sunday nights, on Monday, and then right before the meeting, just doesn't allow enough time. Now, this isn't pointing fingers at anyone. There's no one that had enough time before you came on board. And I know there's going to be emergencies, and there's always going to be something, but in general, I think I'd hope to go to this schedule so that we all have enough time to review the information in the packages. And I think right now, we want to make sure that we get it electronically, and whoever wants to get a hard copy, that we have a procedure for doing that works for the planning office. One of the things, just from spending a little bit of time in that office, you can see how crowded it is. I mean, basically, they're sitting right next door to one another. And if all of us are coming in at different times, it makes it very difficult. They've got contractors, developers, people coming in and out continuously. So they need to set times for us that work for them, as well as us, when we can pick up our packages. And in the future, we'll have mailboxes or whatever that works. But
They're gone?
well, they're downstairs.
Oh, they got moved?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
because you can't go where they were.
Can't go where they were.
oh, right.
So for now, we'll get them electronically, but if anyone wants to see the hard copies instead of printing.
I talked to Dad about that. I prefer the hard copies myself.
It's the developer's responsibility to provide it
Yeah.
with a certain number of, and he's the bad guy because he gets,
Oh,
they come in for
Yeah.
late and everything else, so I mean, we need them.
Further on in here, it says exactly what is expected of a developer to the planning office. So a lot of the heavy lifting is already done in this
And I
document.
don't mind this, it's really the plans. I like to have a full set of plans. I don't like trying to pull up those plans and scroll around on them and try to find, you pull up the entire set of plans and it's that big, and you zoom in
Right.
and you have to move around. It really can get confusing. It takes
Especially if you
time.
try and zoom in on it, then you lose perspective of the
Right.
larger
And I know we don't have a
plan.
lot of space at our table to open the plans, and we don't all like to do it, but I do like to open them right up.
I think that's one thing we talked about. I know that the office wants to move to more electronic versions, and we can look at that with Clerkbase to see if that works better. If not, what I've asked for, at least on an interim basis, is when the developer comes in, we need the initial set of plans.
Right.
That can set us through the next 6 months if it doesn't change substantially. If it changes significantly, then at some point, we need a copy of the new plan so that we can understand it. If they go from 100 units to 200 units, we want to understand what that looks like.
Who's so say 4 of us want full sets of plans. Every meeting, if there's a new set of plans, we want the full set of plans, it's 20 pages in there. Is that something the town has to provide, or is that something we have to request from the developer? We want 6
In
sets of
here,
those plans.
the developer is responsible for the initial set, and that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So we will
But
all,
copies are our
anyone that
responsibility.
wants that will be provided that through the planning office as part of our package. We have to talk about at what point do we need something else. So if a meeting is continued, it's up to us to keep that data. They're not going to supply us with a new map every month.
Right.
Only if it changes substantially, then we've got to work out a procedure for that. And I think the developer at that point is still required to provide you copies.
As
Right?
many copies as we,
It
we need.
even specifies it in here.
Yeah, okay.
And show up. if 2 months or 3 months have passed by and a certain item comes back to the agenda and we need a reference as to where to find.
Yeah. As part of the agenda, if, let's say, we just had a recent project. It kind of went away for a couple of months and then it came back and then it appeared on our agenda again. We're just going to ask the planning office to let us know, this is from the April meeting, this is from the March meeting. If it goes on too long, then, we're not going to keep these plans indefinitely. So we'll just have to work out the timing with you. And again, this is just interim basis. If you come up with a new system, a new improved way of doing it, then we'll take a look at that. But for right now, we're just asking for what's already in here, what our procedure should be.
If the agenda says continued from X month,
That's it.
would that be good enough?
Yes.
We can do that?
Just add one little line item, continued from this, and we'll go pull up, our old plans. But if it goes beyond like a year, then we may want something different. I don't keep them for that long. I don't have any place to store them.
And just a little hint, and the title block in the bottom right-hand corner of the plans, it's up to the engineer to put the revision date, so that you can keep track of that too. I mean, a chronological thing, so, they've been a little lax, I've noticed.
Yes,
But,
that's
you
very
have
true.
to, you have to, do that. That way you might be able to get rid of some of the stuff, but it's very important. I mean, that's when it comes in. And the thing that I am concerned about is a certificate of completeness. Now, Chris will be doing the certificate of completeness, and I read in a legal notice, there's something, so I'm a bug. I go running into Ed, where's this project? We haven't gotten it yet, so I think the certificate and the plan should all come together.
Well, certificate and plan coming together are one thing, but a legal notice is going to be published greater than 7 days before
yeah.
before they're required to get you the materials.
But it should be in the office if we wanted to look at it, because that's what you're
Yes.
telling the
Yes.
public, that they
Yes,
can
you're
look at it.
correct. Yes,
And the certificate of completeness has already been done.
yes, they should be that.
So what the planning board wants to ask of the planning office, and if anyone has anything they want to add to this, is if we can follow or get to a point where we can follow these dates, because we think this would be very helpful. There are some times where it mentions in here where we can get it 14 days in advance, where a developer basically has to provide the information to you, so you're not scrambling at the last minute. Once they do that, you'll be able to provide the information to us. One of the things that we want to prevent from happening, and again, there's always going to be emergencies and we have to work towards this goal, but we don't want to walk into a planning board meeting and receive handouts. And not saying your emails and all that, that's fine. But if a developer has a presentation that they want to show us, if they have a plan that they want to show us, it shouldn't be provided to us that day. Most of us work. There's no way that I can check the town emails and get that information printed and absorb it prior to the meeting.
It shouldn't be
So
something that we're
we need
obligated
the
to even
deadlines.
review at that
Right.
point.
Right. The developers need to follow the guidelines unless there's an emergency, and we'll leave that to our solicitor and planner to determine.
What if
We
a
shouldn't
developer
even-
is
shouldn't
not,
even accept it.
what if a developer is not looking for an approval and just passing out informational?
At a meeting,
Or even prior to a
Even
meeting,
prior
but
to.
again, it's stuff that you're going to be
if you put it,
taking up at another meeting, but again, it's, if you want to ask any questions, you're welcome to, but we're not looking for any kind of decision or anything like that.
Well, it's different. If they're just giving it to us for our own information.
Well, I mean, they may be on the agenda, but they may have additional supplemental material that's going to be helpful in the long run. And pass along information, consider for the next meeting, but giving you a little bit- it's like getting it to you earlier for the next meeting.
they've said it, and they don't come through with it, right?
What's that?
They have said they would give us information, and they don't come through with it until the night of the meeting and you can absorb it. We had it not too long ago.
Well, I think that's different than what the scenario we're talking about. The scenario we're talking about is that they're presenting that day with materials that we've already seen, but they are going to give us some
Updated.
additional.
If a developer comes in day of a meeting with new material
We'll hold it.
for a subsequent meeting. Hold it. Do not distribute it to the board.
Okay.
Until after that meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I'd like to see some system of version. You know, when we were going through the permitteds and not permitteds and definitions, we were getting new sets all the time.
I wouldn't mind getting it then,
And-
because
I filled a whole small bedroom full of paper.
why
And
couldn't we just? receive
figuring out
it?
if this is the latest copy that we have is tough. There's really nothing that tells you that after the fact, if you're digging through a pile. And some of these developments have been on the books a long time.
So are you asking for like a received date stamp?
Anything, or an errata sheet or something. Hey, this completely replaces the one dated whatever, or just some way that you knew, hey, there's replacement pages, or you could chuck all the earlier versions of.
I think that's a good point. When you get a new map or a new plan, I mean, I know maps are dated, but let's say a new plan or a new document, we should have it date stamped, or we should have the revision, some kind of revision control number on it.
Document should just
And
have
make-
the
Yeah, the document
Right.
usually
Revision
does.
date.
In the file name, you know, usually you just get Rev 0326.
Exactly.
You know, that's in the document number, they have the name. That's how I always send things and get it sent to me. If I got an update of a graphic or something, it'll say like picture blah, 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 Rev 0326, or something like that. And .jpeg or something. That's how I tell people to send it, so I know it's the latest one. We post the wrong one, it's their own
Right.
peril.
Let's just say something easy as a traffic report or something like that, not that we get a lot of those, but if there's a 2026 version and we've got a 2022, I just pulled one out here, we need to be able to just toss this and the new one replaces that. So just
Yeah.
think of a way that we can do it going forward.
So
that
normally they
works for
will
you.
document that on the submissions. That's typically how we see them, or how we tell them apart, is they're on what they submit. So there's a date or a revision date.
They
So
usually have a
typically-
transmittal
We have a
sheet, But we
transmittal
don't get a
sheet.
copy of that. It's only one, and they.
Yeah,
have,
it's on top.
You know, yeah.
But usually the document itself has the revision date on the document. That's how we tell them apart.
Well, that gives you a
So-
date, but does that give you, is that the latest date?
It's the most current.
Well, I would say, yeah.
That-
the
You
most
don't know
current.
that that's really the most current one that exists. I mean,
Well,
Vital alone,
yeah.
how many sets have we gone through on those things?
I think determine what works for you.
Yeah, and
And-
again, part of what we're trying to do is not get swallowed in paperwork.
Exactly.
We're trying to make sure that we're getting things out in a timely manner. You know, ideally, this day and age, we'd like to go paperless at some point. But again, we recognize that some people want the paper copies. For right now, we will continue that.
So Todd just tried giving us some advice on something we were just talking about, right? Like, what do we do when they bring us, whatever, any information, you know, at a meeting, and we should just not accept it? And that's what your advice was?
If it's
Yeah.
intended for a future meeting,
Yeah.
they're just delivering it. They just happen to be delivering it to you that night.
Right, well, that's right, so you said for him not to distribute it, can't, I mean, can't he just distribute it, we just, you know, tuck it aside?
Oh, they're bypassing the
We'll
office now.
figure it out. We'll make sure that works.
Think about it, how would he even have a copy of it? They're bypassing the office and handing it to us at a meeting anyhow.
No,
Should-
Ed would have it, Ed would have been turned into Ed maybe last minute, you know, and would Ed turn that into us at the meeting, just so we have it, or?
I'll just
Well, I
hold
mean,
it.
I'm thinking of scenarios too, where somebody's, they've got information
You know,
that you're not looking for a decision at night, there's other things on the agenda, or other things related, but they're talking about something that they're gonna be getting more in-depth at the next meeting, or it's sort of like giving you a little bit of a heads up of what's gonna be coming.
Right.
But if, you know, if the decision is that we're just, it didn't come in time, then we're not gonna provide it, if that's the direction of the board.
I think that's fine.
I don't-
My personal
I don't-
opinion, for information purposes, that they're not, what I don't want to do.
We're never
is-
gonna wanna put you guys in the position where we're giving you something 2 days before the meeting and asking you to make a decision on this new information that you just got. So we agree that that's.
just not receive it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And there, you know, sometimes people hand out things in the meeting. I think we need to get into the habit of, you're the central, you're the main department.
Repository, yeah.
It goes to you, and then you email it out to us. What had happened at a recent meeting with the water department, they had 4 copies of something, and,
But sometimes,
you think they're
you've got
handed
somebody
out.
coming in, they're doing a presentation, and they just happen to have, they don't have enough for everybody, they just
Right.
happen to have that. They weren't planning on giving it out, they just happen to have it, and then we say, we'll take that, make copies, and get it to the board.
Right.
So that's-
And I think that's what happened. We just didn't get any of the information
Like this
back,
one
and
right
it just
here.
got mixed up on a
Yeah.
couple of times.
I just need to say one thing. We cannot have a hard and fast rule about accepting materials because of time clock issues, okay? Unless you're willing to deny a project because they submitted something late, okay? So there has to be some give and take. Just keep that in consideration.
We're human.
Yeah.
You gotta be human about it.
Yeah.
If someone's turning in something and it's not like a big commercial thing, it's someone doing something for their own house, they have a deadline, and it's just a little rinky-dinky plan or to change a driveway or something, to make them wait a month just because they're walking out.
Yeah, it's
Kind of human.
all related to the scope and the
Right,
complexity.
exactly.
It all has to be reasonable, and it all has to work for everyone. We're just saying as a general guideline,
Yeah, no.
this is a good document, and it
Right.
has a lot of the things noted on here, but we understand there's always going to be emergencies, there's always going to be things that happen, and now with the time clock, that's why we have Todd to advise us in these situations. We want to understand that, but we also want to make sure, on one of it, was talking about a 21-day thing. You don't have to wait until it's 7 days before the meeting and then send it all to us. If we've got a lot of development plans that month, as soon as you have it available, please send it out to us. Even if we get 2 or 3 things, we want to make sure we have the information to review. We just want to avoid the Sunday night, the Monday, the Tuesday information as much as we can. That's basically what it is. And, at the TRC, it came up yesterday, we had a developer that was mentioning, referencing plans that they were talking about. And the fire marshal had a plan with a certain date. You had a plan with a certain date. Weston and Sampson engineer had a plan with a different date. So there were 3 people on the TRC with plans that they were using, and it was different than the developer had.
Right, I think it was because the developer had not yet submitted the newer
Right.
one, and they were, that's.
But it
what
was
they put
interesting with 3 different dates, too, that people were referencing. So we just want the information as accurate as we can, as soon as we can get it, so that we can
To
absorb it.
clarify, the 3 people on the board or on the TRC had the
TRC.
same date.
Right,
The developer had a different date.
right.
So it wasn't 3 different dates.
Okay.
It was,
The way I
all,
had
we
heard it,
had
I
the
thought
same
it was-
date, they had a
No, no,
different,
no,
so we're,
we all
yeah.
had a previous one, and this was a new one that they had
Okay.
not yet submitted to us.
And there were members of the TRC that didn't have any plans that were referenced or narratives that was not good.
No.
So we just want to improve things. Your office
Yeah.
needs to function
Yep.
well without getting bombarded from us, and we want the information to make the best decision. That's all we're trying to do.
Yep.
And I think this is just
And also
interim.
understand that the planning office is not just, our sole function is not to support the planning board. We have a lot of other functions that we are involved in, a lot of other things within town that we get brought into, a lot of other things that the fire department, the police department, the tax assessor, a lot of other information, a lot of other initiatives that we're going to be working on. So there's a lot of things that we're trying to do. So again, we're going to continue to do the best we can, improve all of the systems, improve the protocol, make sure that we're doing things in as timely and an organized manner as we can. But right now, we are, 50% more than we had before, but we're 2 people.
Oh, yeah.
We're-
And the
100%
situation where, you're situated is
Yeah, we
difficult on
are
the best
in a
day.
completely
And that's why,
disorganized situation.
Right.
I'm working off a table this big
right.
and no file space or anything like that. So, again, everybody's dealing with what we have at hand, and we'll continue to improve as our lives get better.
Right. And I think if you want to let us know about package pickup, whatever works
Yeah.
for you in this interim period,
Yep.
and then you can always change it as you get different offices, as we improve things.
That is our
Okay.
goal.
Can we discuss the planning for first? It's not on here if we get from 9 to 7. I don't it's on here. Um, I think we're just talking about, is there anything else that the planning office needs from the board members that we can improve upon to make your life a little bit easier?
No, again, I think, we are fine with, if there are questions on developments that you want to ask us individually before a meeting, that's fine. Anything that we might be able to help you with, again, we would just want to avoid mass emails, so it's an ex parte communication, but if somebody has individual questions they want to ask us, that's fine. We're always open to that. Give us a call, whatever. But again, if possible, give us a time that you're coming, just because we're always in the middle of 20 different things, so. And every time somebody comes in, we end up stopping what we're doing, which is, glad to do it. It would just be easier if we know
Right.
ahead of time.
And
Well,
maybe you
if
can set
there's
up,
things in our mailbox, it would save an interruption from me at least.
We're doing the best we can.
I know.
We will get those. So.
if you
And
want
again,
to.
we have a pretty bad printer too in our
You
office.
do.
We're-
And Ed finally got that working.
Yes, thank you, Ed.
If you want to limit the days, that we can come in, or if something works for you better, just let us know that too, in the
Once we get to
future.
the point where we know that better, we will.
Okay.
But I think, I just actually want to just recognize the work that Ed has been doing without anybody else in the office for just an unbelievable amount of time. I don't know how he's done it, and hopefully now, with a little bit of help, we're going to bring it up and get it a little bit more organized. But I think, what he's been doing is just phenomenal, and I hope this board is very appreciative of the work that he's done.
Absolutely. The volume of work that has come through your office and the volume that's turned out for the planning board in the packages has been a tremendous amount of work that we very much appreciate.
He is the heart of a lion.
Thank you, yeah.
And we appreciate everyone. We just want to do the best we can.
No, I know. I know this is not nobody's slamming on anybody, but I just wanted to recognize that. Important for everybody to understand.
So I have just a quick comment. When I first came on the planning board, we had a consulting engineer who came to all of our meetings. We had a number of consulting engineers who worked first for Commonwealth and then for, what was the other group that?
Clark.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they participated, they were consulting engineers, and they participated in all of the discussions and very often came up with a lot of good information, because most of us on the board, in fact, all of us on the board, are not engineers.
And we worked.
But that system fell apart at a certain point in time, and I'm wondering if there's been any discussion of bringing it back. Also, and I don't know if this is really necessary or not, but but there was a time when the director of the Public Works Department came to all of our meetings, and sometimes I remember Steve Berlucci actively participated in a lot of, and came up with a lot of good information. I don't know if that's really necessary or not. It's kind of, it's asking a director to give up an evening every month. But I think it would be good if we could have a consulting engineer who was more active. I mean, I haven't seen Nathan. And I saw him yesterday at the TRC, but I haven't seen him in a year. I'm just throwing that out as something that might be helpful. The other thing that I find really helpful are the memos that we get from the AO or the planner or both. Ashley's memos, and then memos from her predecessor before she came on board, giving us really good, valuable information on a project. So I think everybody appreciates that very much.
Sure, let me just address a couple of those. So I think you're right. I think, when I was here before, we did have the consulting engineer at most of the meetings. I think we've sort of gotten away from that. It was helpful.
100% of the meetings.
Yep, helpful to have that information, those technical memos, that would talk about the actual ordinances and things like that. But one of the other things we also did was we also had the consulting engineer at doing many of the inspections or watching those, especially on roads that were going to be accepted.
I remember Deidre Pava from Commonwealth going out to sites and finding problems and coming back and reporting that.
Yep, but the way that was done too was that the consulting engineer would look at the project, provide some sort of an estimate in terms of what that inspection would look like as far as time, and then that information would get transmitted to the planning board, who would then set an escrow amount or an amount for those projects.
Yes.
And then those were all paid for by the applicant. So we're going to be looking at all of those things. I know there was a time recently where the DPW director was doing all the inspections themselves, but what that does is pull them away from their day-to-day operations and their actual leadership in terms of that entire department. So we're not going to be going in that direction, but we are looking to see whatever we can get that will allow this to be no cost to the town, but the cost borne by the developer. We're going to be looking in that direction.
If I could just add to that, if we go back, this planning board policies and procedures that was put together is really so helpful. This is mentioned in here about having the consulting engineer and other people available, how the cost is estimated and who bears that cost. All of it is here. And that's why when I went to put together something that would be helpful for this meeting, I said, this answers, 90% of my questions. So if you have a chance, please look it over, highlight anything that you find important that we're not doing so we can get Chris involved and recommend it, going forward. Again, these changes may not happen overnight, but we want to work towards this goal. But the engineer is a perfect example of that.
If I may, Chris, you did an excellent job when you prepared the reports for us years ago, and very helpful. And that's why I asked to have the certificate of completeness, because the notes on there helped me, because we were getting we were getting notes. I can't, the night of the meeting, or sometimes when we walked in the door, or the weekend. So that's why I asked for the certificate of completeness to be included for all the members.
Sure. We are working towards all of those things.
I'm sure you have so many hats, though. That's
We'll get
scary.
there. So I think we're, making
He can wear
progress.
them.
And
He can wear them, he's good.
my wife says I don't look good with hats, so I'm going to try not to.
I'll knit you one.
Thank you. That will be. Thanks.
Anything else before the last item on here? Okay. We just said discussion regarding what can be done to make meetings run better and more efficiently. One of the big complaints that I've heard, or the feedback that I've gotten on meetings, is we don't use our mics, and people at home cannot hear us, or they can't hear us clearly. Even people in the audience. I know at the TRC yesterday, I couldn't hear anything.
I couldn't hear a thing at the
Yeah, it was one of the worst examples that I've seen, and I know I'm guilty of it as well. But when we come into the meetings, if you can just test your mic, this is counter, to everything that I've learned. Red is usually off. In here, red is on. So if you want to keep the mic on, as long as you're not fumbling with your papers or mumbling amongst yourselves, keep your mic on. If it's a distraction or anything, then just put it off. When you go to put it on, it's usually just one good press of it will turn it on. Doesn't matter how many times we press it, it's not going to help us. You're going to be putting it on and off. Just press it once, wait for the red button, and then speak into it. And I think if we could all be more conscious of that, it would help. If, again, we can just get quicker on that one process, we can save a minute here and there.
So at the next meeting, I know we're going to work a little bit on the overall layout. Again, if we're in the library, hopefully,
We are, yeah.
So we got a different layout, so the screen is not going to be behind everybody.
The tables.
You'll be able to see the way those are. And I think we've forwarded the PowerPoint template and stuff to all of the developers. So hopefully we'll be assembling all of the applicant's material into one PowerPoint, and then we'll be able to just kind of go through there, and those images will be available for you guys to see as well as the audience. That way, the public can see it, and you guys will all be able to see it, so.
Actually, that one change will make a huge difference. Having the screen behind you when you're trying to see it and while the developers are talking is very difficult. So being
And
off-
that's where that issue came up with us looking at different, we had an older version on our laptops, and behind us was something else, so.
So
Yeah, the
getting
TRC.
started
In the
is that-
TRC, we only had one mic per table, I think.
We
just
did, we
because it was-
didn't have-
It was just a little
yeah.
difficult. What's that? Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have the mics, yeah.
But again, those are all
Fired
temporary
up is
things.
still taking a little bit of time, so maybe getting that projector fired up before the meeting starts, making sure that it's powered and.
Yep.
Actually, that's a good idea. And just coming in and just, seeing where the mics are and just testing it for a couple of seconds first might help.
I have a little housekeeping thing in it. I mean, we have a lot of new members, and I don't think Robert's rules of order that I've gone over, but I don't want. But, I mean, I think recusals, conflicts of interest should also be highlighted. Maybe I need to single.
Someone feels that I have a conflict, talk to me before the meeting.
Talk to the board and instruct them. I mean,
Maybe some people don't know when they have a conflict.
It's pretty intuitive.
Yeah.
open meeting laws, things like that, that are just,
All right, so Rosemary requests.
yeah. Tutorial. Romano.
Well, when we're talking about training for the planning board, we can add that to the list when we go over the GIS. We'll ask Mr. Romano to review that with us. One other item I'm sure people have heard about is, it was brought up by one of the town council members as far as the number of people that we have on the planning board. It wasn't discussed with me ahead of time. Apparently, it was discussed with the previous chair, and it was discussed with Chris. I personally didn't have any major objections if we went from 9 members to 7, because we have 2 openings. So it's not going to be a readjustment of what we have here. But I did request that we have, that we put in requirements for new board members, so that we're getting people that are a little bit more suited to a planning board. People with previous experience, you have to be able to read maps, you have to be good at math, you have to be a resident for a certain amount of time. We'd prefer different qualifications. We don't want, 7 people with the same backgrounds. Having a contractor here, having small business owners, having people with different backgrounds. And I think it's also very important that they served under another board. They come with some experience from something, that this isn't their first rodeo. I also think it's very important that they sit through our planning board meetings before applying for the board. It's not the same thing when you listen to the meetings at home, where you can take breaks. We have very long meetings. They're very intense. There is a lot of information to go through. I know one of my first meetings, I was telling someone else, there was 6 inches of information to go through. That's a lot. It's not like serving on another board where it's 1 hour a month, 2 hours a month. Right now, there's a lot of development coming into town, and this is a difficult time to join a board such as ours. So we're going to be working with the town council on that, with our town administrator, with Attorney Romano, on the requirements. We're trying to increase those. So if we are reduced from 9 to 7, we have the best people that we can possibly get on the board.
Right, and I think this board, other than the council, is probably one of the most taxed boards in terms of the amount of work that everybody here has to do, the amount of material you have to absorb, and just the gravity of what you're approving or not approving.
All of that goes to running the board efficiently and having efficient members, and whether 7 versus 9 is efficient, tying it into the agenda.
Yeah.
Thank
for
you.
us.
Appreciate
That's
that.
all.
Right, and as Todd mentioned,
Well done.
reducing it to 7, I mean, we have time clocks, and if we don't have a quorum, we have a quorum now, but I thought we had discussed this, Cheryl, and I didn't, that we were gonna not, we were gonna leave it at 9.
What do the surrounding towns have?
Is it a charter issue?
Most are
It-
smaller.
It is a charter issue.
It's all over the place. Some have 5, 7.
Right.
No one has 9. According to Peter Rusciero, we were unique in the state of Rhode Island in having 9 members. I don't know if Peter was correct about
I
that or
think they
not,
have
but,
voting and non-voting though.
but Peter Rusciero was Todd's predecessor years ago.
I looked up several towns, and they were at 5 or 7.
Yeah.
A couple of them had alternate members if they were down at the 5 level.
Yeah.
I know our zoning board does that.
So
I
that-
think we
that
can
issue
function
has
with
come up
7
before.
as long as we have a good group of dedicated people. Attendance is important at the regular meetings. And I was going to talk about, the calendars are posted for our regular meetings and for our special meetings. This month has been unusual because we wanted to do a workshop here. We have a workshop with our town council before our next regular meeting. So the most important meetings are our regular meetings and if we call a special meeting. As much as possible, we're going to try and stick to that calendar where the special meetings are outlined. Unless there's an emergency or unless Todd has something that we have to hear and a time clock is going to expire or, we've got some type of situation. If you could hold those 2 dates for the foreseeable future, we'll do our best to schedule all meetings on those 2 dates.
Well, we have the yearly calendar already put out.
It's the yearly calendar. It's under the planning board. We have regular meetings, and then we have special meeting calendar. Right. So we're going to do our best to schedule on those 2 dates, whatever comes up, but unless it's an emergency, that's what we'll stick to. But if, and we should be able to accommodate that unless the town council is going to ask us something. Those are the 2 calendars.
Should we be doing any preparation for the upcoming workshop with town council?
Todd is taking care of that.
That is for the council to discuss with this board the proposed ordinances from November, I think,
Yeah.
2025.
Is that on Monday still? Yeah.
Now, that is exactly what Todd went over, or was Todd and Ashley at the time went over with us last
Yes.
fall. It's the same
I know,
thing.
I know.
Todd is going to be presenting it to the town council.
And a lot of it are items that the state is imposing on municipalities in any case. I mean, it's,
I don't want to get off topic with it, but I have provided the council with an annotated version of those ordinances identifying which are required by statute, and in some instances, the thought processes to other.
yeah, well, that's good.
Just hate to get off again, if I could just add to that. We're going to talk with the town council on the preferred method going forward, the zoning changes. What do they want to see from the planning board? We want to work with them. We don't want to hold zoning ordinance changes or any kind of zoning changes, but we want to find out the best method to meet their approval so that they can absorb it and be able to approve it. We don't want to run into this again. And the only changes, the only emergencies would be if the town council asks us to look at something and we have to put that on our next agenda, that's exactly what we'll do. Those are the one-off, like the vet office, like the cat cafe, and those are going to come up as the town council kicks it back to us. But other than that, they should be from the zoning revision committee, or they should be changes that this board recommends that needs to be changed. We have to have approval from the town council. Other than that, it's going to be a business emergency. A business is waiting to open. There's got to be some kind of trigger for that, and Attorney Romano will let us know if we need to put that on sooner.
Good.
Anything to add to that?
No.
Okay. Anything else from anyone? Board members, planning office?
Reminder, ethics filings. I know some people, eager viewers, free over here, have already submitted theirs. I don't need to be notified. They emailed me. That's all.
Gold star for finishing early.
I don't
I
need to
have
know.
not yet.
Yeah, just a reminder, that's all.
They called the attorney and rat on the guys who haven't filled it out yet.
So, a point of clarification, and I was at the town council meeting when the issue came up about about why there have been so many resignations from the planning board. And I think somebody also mentioned the fact that there should be qualifications. Who is going to be developing the qualifications? Town council, because town council actually makes the appointments.
I'm going to work with Todd and with the town administrator, with Chris Spencer, with anyone that wants to have input. If you want to submit them to us, we're going to recommend changes. And I'm sure
But ultimately, it would be the council that,
it's the council that decides
Yes, right.
yes or no and
Yes.
how to incorporate that. We're just going to recommend the changes that we think are necessary to be a planning
Okay,
board
that-
member
that makes
on a
sense to me.
reduced, level.
I will give you some historical thing here, but there was a former council person. Anytime a person came forward with any appointment, they would ask, why do you want to be on here? Have you attended a meeting? Are you, how long have you lived in the town? I mean, that type of thing. Are you familiar with the town? I mean, it was, not a friend of a friend. I mean, it was just no agendas and that's how it went.
These will
but
only be
ideally, that will be
guidelines.
part of the application and part of the whole
Right.
thing, that we'd be able to review some of that stuff ahead of time and make some recommendations.
They will only be guidelines, they will not be hard and fast. They will not be disqualifiers.
The application, when you apply for a board, there's questions very similar to those on the applications now.
Yep.
I don't know they're read or analyzed all that well, but they're on there.
They're ready.
One of the things that'd be nice if we had some copies of the larger documents, like the comp plan.
Everybody should have.
We don't seem to have any of the nice shiny Cadillac versions of these things with spiral bindings. You'd
So-
think we'd have our own comp plan.
So we had copies way back when, but people were supposed to give them back when they were off the board. I don't think that happened. So
No, 'cause they didn't have any when I
being
was
on a shared budget wasn't always anyone's first priority to go make copies for everybody, especially if we weren't going to get them back and we were just going to have to keep making them.
I have
big,
one
it's
from
big.
when I first
And-
came
and it
up
gets
with
amended,
What is
too,
it? Has
you
it
know,
changed?
so-
I mean,
Not in
Oh,
10
yeah.
years.
Oh, okay.
It's only once every 10
Well,
years.
the comp plan's changed. We've
Oh,
had
yeah, no,
amendments.
Oh, the
Yeah,
amendments.
yeah.
We amended every,
I've got the one that we
At
I
did
don't
least-
have any of the
the
amendments.
first time around.
Not in your original, no.
I
No.
think the one I have is 7 years old, I think.
Okay.
7 years old.
2018.
So I think that needs to go on a list. One of the other things I had also recommended is that for the planning board, laptops, mailboxes, laptops.
Yeah.
We need to be more efficient. And I know we have different versions of laptops. Mine get stuck with certain memory requirements when I'm trying to download the information. And maybe I just need to, improve that. It's a fairly new laptop, but
Oh, yeah.
that's one of the things that I requested, for efficiency, is that if we had the same laptop, we, can download the files the same way, we can look at it in meetings as we need to. So not sure what the budget will be and at what point in time they will consider it, but that is one thing that we asked for.
It was something that wouldn't cost much, would just be a list of what you need.
Well,
Actually, that's
it-
in one of the documents.
it does, yeah, I mean, if we have to do it and we'll figure something out, it's just that once we get new planning board members and we don't get stuff back, we're going to be,
You have no neighbors, once you know that route, you can't expect everybody to have that.
But, you know-
Laptop that can handle
Yeah,
that.
but a lot of them are available online. You
well, yeah,
can
viewing
download
it, right.
If you knew you needed,
But, we could actually,
Right here. These are your
charge-
important documents.
we could actually establish a fee schedule that would cover laptops, because the state does allow us to charge fees for costs that are directly related to reviewing applications, correct? We can't turn it into a profit center and make money, but we can recoup our costs.
That's a good point, I think we'll let,
Not on the computers. We can recoup costs for advertising.
Right.
Under, again, I'm going to point back to the planning board policies and procedures. Under there is actually a list of materials that new planning board members should be receiving.
Yeah.
And with that is the community comprehensive plan, the comprehensive community plan, and other documents. So we'll have to work towards what do we need to do to provide this to current members and any new members. And training will go along with that. You know, we need to improve quite a few processes. But we've got to give our planning office time to get settled and figure out how to do some of this.
Right.
Anything else? Okay. Could I?
Motion. Oh, well, no.
I said.
You're gonna give her a closing prayer?
Thank you, Rosemary.